Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Word Balloon Podcast, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Great conversation today with Brian Bendis. It's from last year, but you will be surprised at how many of the subjects we cover are still evergreen enough that they reflect on some of the things we're interested in talking about today. Now, you might ask yourself, what happened? Why didn't I release it sooner? We recorded it, and he's just like, hey, something, let me hear it before you release it. And that's okay. A lot of creators ask that sometimes. I'm happy to oblige. So I sent him the interview, and I waited a few weeks. No answer. Reminded him, oh, yeah, sorry, let me listen to it. I haven't had a chance, no problem. A couple months passed by. Suddenly it's summertime. You still haven't heard that March interview. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'll get to it, okay. Finally, whenever we recorded our last Word Balloon sometime in the fall, I'm like, hey, what about that March conversation that we had? And he said, oh, yeah, go ahead and release it. And I'm like, okay, great. And so I figured I'd release it at the end of the year, but then all of a sudden we had all these new interviews that popped up in December. I mean, you saw it. Geez, I released 10 episodes, for God's sakes, in December. And, so I'm like, all right, I'll push it till the beginning of this year. And really was going to release it at the beginning of this past weekend, but another interview that I had recorded expecting to release early this week, I found out crapped out. So I figured I'd wait a full calendar week after the Liefeld interview to release it now. So here it is, and it's really great, I promise you. Brian and I talk about the success of Deadpool, kind of like we did on the last episode with Rob Liefeld. And Brian openly wonders if R-rated movies are a good or bad thing. We talk about the Superman-Batman movie because this was released a few weeks before the movie actually came out. And I think it carries with the same concerns we have with director Zack Snyder moving forward, frankly. Brian gives us some good stories about what it's like to be a geek dad and trying to point the kids in the right geek directions, things to avoid. They may not seem obvious. Certainly, as someone without children, they weren't obvious suggestions. I made a couple suggestions of things to watch, and he explained why that's a bad idea. Very smart. Plus, this was the beginning of Civil War. And Brian got into a lot of the making of Civil War in this conversation, and you're going to hear about that. I think it's a really fun talk. So it's Brian Bendis today on Word Balloon. It's all brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners, and if you've heard my latest show, then you know that right now I am unemployed and could certainly use your help. If you like Word Balloon, and you've ever thought about subscribing to Word Balloon before, this would be great. I'm asking if you can you afford $5 a month? Can you afford the price of a comic book today? Because I really do think that beyond other comic book podcasts, I think Word Balloon does do something special in providing you with these conversations, the insight from the creators. And, when you think about it, these things are even longer than convention panels. So I think a lot of good information is shared during these conversations, and I really do appreciate your basic patronage in terms of just showing up and listening and telling your friends about how much you like Word Balloon. But also, if you can't subscribe to the show, I would love to do this full time, and I am pursuing looking for full time work, and will do what I need to pay the bills. But if you can help me out, and really this could be a full time concern, that would be great. And it would only result in more episodes of Word Balloon. It's one of the reasons why you got 10 episodes last month in December. And, I could really use your help. So if you've ever thought about doing it before, this would be a great time. Go to patreon.com/wordballoon. That's the direct website. And if you can afford it, Word Balloon is free. It will always be free. But if you can help out the cause, it makes it easier for me to go to conventions. It makes it easier for me to meet new creators and interesting people to have on the show and bring you the best show I possibly can. So truly, thank you very much, League of Word Balloon listeners, for your support. There are a bunch of brand new subscribers that have joined the cause, and I thank you very, very much for that support to make the show. Word Balloon is also brought to you by InStock Trades at InStockTrades.com. And there are some great deals going on right now at InStock Trades. I just want to bring up the books that are on sale this week from InStock Trades, all the brand new stuff. DC Rebirth is in full swing, and I think the first trades are coming out. You can get things like the Aquaman Trade Paperback Volume 1, The Drowning, It's 50% off. It's just $8.49. Tom King's first Batman trade, I Am Gotham, 50% off, $8.49. You can get Captain America, Sam Wilson, Volume 3, Sam's involvement in Civil War specifically. That's Nick Spencer and Angel Unzuela. It is 45% off, just $8.79. You can get Renato Jones, 1%, Season 1 trade paperback, all done by Kari Andrews. Great story, really, really fun attack on the 1%ers. Renato Jones is a very interesting character. We talked about this when the book was coming out. Check out the trade paperback. It's 45% off, $5.49. I'm telling you about all the reasonably priced stuff. So there's some high-end stuff, too, that you can get, like Flash, the Silver Age Omnibus, featuring the great writing of people like John Brune and the beautiful art of Carmine Infantino. You got an incredible Darwin Cook cover. It's 42% off, just $57.99. Just a few of the great deals waiting for you at InStockTrades.com. If you make an order of $50 or more, you'll receive free shipping. And really, man, if you're still sitting on some holiday money, this is a great place to get some great books at great prices. InStockTrades.com. Without further ado, let us join Brian Bendis and myself. I was trying to remember why he was angry at me for something. Because he was it's very rare that Brian will disagree with me on Facebook or Twitter, but he really did come out publicly and was mad at me about something. I couldn't remember what it was. Eventually in the conversation we get to it, but I really think you're going to enjoy this lengthy but fun new Bendis Tapes conversation. It's kind of new. It's new to us because it's never been released before, but again, it's from March of 2016. But still a very relevant conversation with Brian Bendis. And in some ways, it's interesting to see how things played out, whether it was the Batman-Superman movie, Powers. This is before Season 2 started, and we get into some talk about what he was excited about with the season coming up. Unfortunately, turned out to be the last season of Powers. And by the way, Powers available on DVD. It came out in November. So if you never were a Sony PlayStation subscriber, you can get both seasons of Powers. And if you're curious, I think they're really two really great seasons, particularly the second season. I really thought the second season went into some great directions and really great acting from the guest cast of that season, along with the regulars as well. So plenty of stuff to talk about with Brian on this conversation. Let's bring it to you now on Word Balloon. So what, am I in trouble?
What?
Am I in trouble? You see, a couple weeks ago, it sounded like you wanted to yell at me about something.
What did I want to yell at you about?
I don't remember.
What were you tweet? You were tweeting about something.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe seriously, because I felt like Archie Bunker, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but
what was it? Do you remember the subject? I actually don't remember.
Batman, Superman. I'm like, who cares if it's an R-rated thing? Calm down.
What was your opinion on that, though?
I'm like, what if he's Galahad and he's surrounded by evil and he's still Superman? I'm like, he doesn't stop being Superman if he's in an R-rated movie.
I kind of disagree. I
understand. You're not alone. A lot of people are fighting me on that one.
And I know, I got hit with because last week they did that in-store convention thing,
Yes.
And,
yeah. Did you do anything for that?
Yeah, I did, and I love Deadpool, and I know the director. We've known each other a very, very long time.
Oh, that's cool. He was great. Yeah,
and no one has worked harder on something that looked like it was never going to happen. I mean, this guy just says, I want to make this movie, and just did everything humanly possible to get it made. Got it made. And I've had friends that do that, just fight, and then they get it made, and that's about it. They got it made, right? But to get it made, and then for it to be just like the biggest thing.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
It's amazing. It happened to two of my friends. It happened to our friend David Engel on Straight Outta Compton.
Indeed.
Who worked on that movie for 11 years.
Academy Award nominated David Engel.
And made all the money it could make. It couldn't have done better. And same thing with Deadpool. Could not have done better. Right? So I said, boy, I really liked it. But, my fear is when something is successful that people who aren't aware of what made it successful and are in charge of other things make weird choices. Go, oh, okay, they want pegging jokes. Let's have Batman peg Superman, and that's not what, and it can only work for Deadpool, right? And so I think
Absolutely.
I know I'm
Yes.
the guy who brought Jessica Jones and Powers into the world. I understand it sounds hypocritical.
Yes, indeed.
What I do to Jessica Jones, I wouldn't do to Miles Morales. There's a place for it. You know what I mean?
But everyone is presuming what I like this. I hope we can keep all of
Yeah,
this.
I thought we were recording.
All right, good. We are recording, so that's good. Hi, everybody. You're catching us in mid argument, but that's good.
No, yeah, and
well, it's a happy discussion, please. I'm always happy to have a disagreement.
I'm not arguing with you, but it was funny because I said, I'm worried about other franchises being ruined by someone trying to Deadpool them.
Yes.
And of course, a perfect example of an out of context quote saying, "I hated Deadpool." It sounds like I hated Deadpool and I hate rated R things, and people were hitting me on Tumblr like, "What a hypocrite!" I go, "No, dude, come on, clearly." I don't think there's anything wrong with rated R anything. It's, you know what I mean? I just, you know what I'm talking about. You worried like
absolutely
and I don't even know what they're doing with Batman versus Superman. I don't know what that.
And that is my point, and that's exactly my point. Because all I was saying was, and so maybe you were angry at me for something else, but my point was, let's see what it is first before we all start saying how dare they? Because am I right? Didn't Avengers have to be edited down to get to PG-13 when they first submitted it?
No, I read every version of that script. It was always aimed at the audience it was aimed for.
But not that it was again. That's why I don't think it's necessarily even a script thing. I think don't think they saw the footage and maybe that some violence needs to be done.
I honestly don't think they could have cobbled together a rated R version of the movie if they tried, unless they CGI'd something. You know what I mean? Sure. Like there was never. It's Joss too. Joss's heart is much more romantic. You know, I honestly, I'm racking my brain because there's so many drafts and years ago, but I don't remember even. But that's off-color joke that. But
that's my point. I don't think it's a script thing. I think it might be a CGI violence thing where it was like, all right.
You're reading more carefully. They've cut out a whole character out of the movie.
Out of Batman Superman.
But out of Batman vs. Superman, and she's showing up in the rated R version.
Interesting.
So there's a rated R character, or something happens to a character that's rated R. Listen, we'll all see in a couple weeks.
Exactly.
I absolutely loathe Man of Steel, not from a DC versus Marvel bullshitty thing that people think that we're not children. I have friends at DC, and I hope they all do well. I particularly did not care for Man of Steel for many reasons. I do. I am thankful for that movie because it reminded me, that's what it looks like when you do that. Don't do that, right?
Sure.
That's what it looks like when you bring on that kind of imagery or that kind of stuff like that. So I'm glad it's a conversation that a lot of us have amongst ourselves about storytelling and these characters and the audience. And so when you see someone, in my opinion, go too big in the second act, so the only thing they could do in the third act is 9/11. That's what happens when you miscalculate your structure, which is what I think they did more than anything.
And I've heard that comparison to 9/11 as well in Act 3 in Man of Steel. I don't know. I saw
they flat out. I mean, there's famous images from 9/11, and they duplicated them. It wasn't like
and I know what you mean. Like a skyscraper collapsing and people running from the collateral damage and things.
And the white cloud of devastation. Yeah, I mean,
Yes. And and also, but then again, you see the trailer for Civil War, and isn't that General Ross's argument to Captain America? And when they're showing the collateral damage of what's happened in the 3 Marvel movies.
Well, I have not seen Civil War, but I have seen Man of Steel. So when we see Civil War, I will bring up. Honestly, I've read different.
You didn't see the trailers?
I saw the trailer.
Well, that's what I'm talking about is the General Ross trailer with William Hurt.
Yeah, we'll see when we see the final thing. I think the imagery was much more 9/11 potent in Man of Steel than it was in those General Ross things. There's disaster and there's, hey, remember the worst thing ever? Do
you have an opinion of Spider-Man's eyes moving?
Oh, I love it.
So did I.
Yeah, no, I love it. I don't know what the like what the science gobbledygook is to make that a thing. But I loved it. Deadpool. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's Deadpool too. No, that is the cool thing, and it's funny. I don't know why, but it does rub me the wrong way in the comics when Deadpool gets too Bugs Bunny-ish, and I know that's the whole point of the character, but it worked for me in the movie, and that's fine. And I liked Spider-Man's eyes getting smaller.
Yeah, I'm not like a Deadpool fanatic character. Like I know people love Deadpool. I never said, "Ooh, I want to do that." Like I'm at Marvel, I could do Deadpool. I there's 4,000 miniseries. Anybody could, you can have Deadpool. No, it's like if you had a take, they'd go for it. Right?
They're for it, sure. No,
I've never had this overwhelming desire to do Deadpool. And I think Jerry kills it. And
job. Tony's doing an amazing job on the covers. Yeah. Hopkins doing amazing jobs on the interiors. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I adored the movie. So
me too. Me too. And I adored seeing Marina Baccarin's naked body. I'll be honest.
And the reason the movie is making so much money is for my daughter and her friends. It is Stripes. It is the rated R movie they all love. Yeah.
That's good. No,
buying tickets to other movies and sneaking into Deadpool and having a blast.
Dude, I totally and I DVR'd Portlandia, and I haven't watched your daughter in action yet.
Yeah, that was just a fun family thing that happened. My old ex-assistant was got a job casting on Portlandia. Friends of the family. Hey, who wants to come down on this day?
Wow.
And Olivia goes, she didn't have school that. She goes, she goes down. I was actually out of town. I was actually in Atlanta. And my wife goes, she's like FaceTiming me and texting me. She's like, Steve Buscemi is directing this. I'm like, oh, really?
Wow. Wow.
And then she FaceTimed it, her doing her bit, and recorded it. And Steve Buscemi was insanely cool. That's good news too.
That's
not
fantastic.
Have been cooler. She had a blast. It's super, super cute. She had no idea because she was 12 at the time. She has no idea who Steve Buscemi is. No idea who Kevin Corrigan is. And then she's done. She calls me, and I explain to her. I go, listen, he hasn't made any movies that particularly you would have seen because we're allergic to Adam Sandler movies, and Scorsese is a little out of your league right now. But
right,
I said, but he was the bad guy in Monsters Inc. But I have to tell you, he's one of the greatest character actors of our generation. No joke, and a really good director.
Yeah, I love his Streets Lounge and all that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that other
Living in Oblivion.
Yeah, and that other actor, it has been in every Scorsese movie. You're in a good movie if he's in there for 5 minutes.
That's cool.
And so lo and behold, she dug it up. On YouTube, someone put every great Steve Buscemi scene, and it was just blood, gore, and violence. He just looks like he's a serial killer when you put it all together like that. But
understood.
But yeah, she had this great experience. 3 days later, she's in Atlanta on a set of Powers. Sitting in my chair.
Outstanding.
And it just she just had this crazy TV week.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really cool. No, I do look forward to seeing it. I just haven't had the time.
Yeah, it was just one of those who would have guessed things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but also to be made up the way she was too, and look just like Slater Kitty, and right now I'm blanking.
Carrie,
Carrie. Yeah,
my
absolutely.
wife was sending me pictures. She's sending me this picture of her standing next to Carrie in the matching outfits. I'm like, are you kidding me? It was really oh my God, I would rather been on that set than the set I was on, which I was like, oh.
Understood. Well, and I imagine we're going to get into as much season 2 talk as you're allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you writing for the DC Rebirth, Brian Bendis?
I'm writing, Sugar and Spike. It's
fantastic.
It's a Vertigo title. It's a hard R, so I'm more full of shit.
But honestly, that's my point about Superman.
It's my max title of Dial H for Hero, but it's Dial H for Whore. But Whore. But
thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. But again, no, that's my Superman Batman thing. Is I think Superman can still be Superman surrounded in a possible R movie, and
I
that's
would like
he
to.
can be Galahad. He can be this symbol of purity and good.
I hope I would love to see that. And again, what you're describing, I think can be done. What Zack Snyder's been doing since 300 does not fill me with the feeling that he is capable or interested in such an idea.
I understand.
All right? And I'm not talking about Watchmen. I'm talking about fucking Sucker Punch Up. You know?
Yes, Sucker Punch immediately came to mind. Well, and like you said, Man of Steel, there's a joylessness to a Zack Snyder film. There's a real dread and dreariness in a Zack Snyder film. And it fit for Watchmen. I suppose it fit for 300 as well. But yeah, Man of Steel, this S means hope. It's a symbol of hope. And it's like, well, can you smile a little bit? Can you be happy a little bit during Man of Steel at all?
Fingers crossed. You know, and you're right.
Exactly.
Hope is the word I'd use. Hopefulness, right?
Yeah.
You know. So again, everyone's like some people listening to this going, "Well, Civil War is heroes beating up heroes," and you know, you could literally give the same story to 5 storytellers and get a completely different thing out of it. That's what, you know what I mean. Let's say they were beat for beat the same thing, which they're not. Again, you could, and sometimes they've done this where you give like 5 storytellers the same thing to do, and it's fascinating what you get out of it. I just, based on what we've seen of his work, I'm curious and worried. And here's where my hypocrisy comes in. I will be at the first showing I can get my hands on for Batman Superman. So,
I understand.
So,
I think I'm going to a pre-screening. Dr. Pepper via Twitter reached out to me and was like, "You want swag and you want to see it in IMAX 3 days before it opens?" I'm like, "Sure." So
yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you saw me put this on Instagram. I got a giant, like the size of my very large Japanese drafting table desk, a thing of cereal, a Batman versus Superman cereal with the nicest Superman cape you could get, a Batman cowl, a bowl, and a spoon.
Who sent you that?
I don't know. It just showed up.
That's very nice.
And I go, are they trying to like buy me with cereal? Because I got to tell you, it almost worked. I go, I'm not going to say anything. Look at that. They sent me some sugar. I can't say anything.
Was it tasty? I've never had the Batman cereal when it came out for Batman and Robin or any of the. Didn't eat any Campbell soup, Star Wars Campbell soup.
No, I did not eat either the Superman or Batman cereal.
You did put the cowl on and wear the cape, though. Come on.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I've been married 20 years. Anything we could do to spice it up, absolutely.
Hello?
I see Batman versus Superman. Anyway, so...
that's not your utility belt. Wait a minute.
So, was like but it was very... I mean, it was the largest promotional thing. I couldn't even believe... I thought it was like, wow. Because it was like the cereal was encased in foam in the way they encase a gun in a suitcase for an assassin. You know what I mean? Like everything was perfectly. It was the nicest thing ever. You could see it on my Instagram. It's. What I can't do is give you how gigantic it was, and I did regift it because it was just literally. The nerd in me couldn't break it apart or eat it, and so I just regifted it to another nerd who could not have been happier.
Outstanding. Yeah. What'd you think of the Oscars?
I thought Chris Rock killed it.
Well, I agree with that.
As I get older, my taste for art by competition seems to be getting, or competition of art seems to be, I'm losing my taste for it on every level. And I think it's because of these reality shows. You know, I sometimes see my wife and the girls are watching like a baking contest, you know, or something, and it's either you won or you're a shithead. I don't know. I think it's a bad message. I don't know.
Well, I agree with that. I don't really keep score of who wins, but I am interested in what's nominated. And I was happy that the guy won for Bridge of Spies. Mark, whatever his name is.
Yeah. I think Bridge of Spies is a very, very good movie. It's like a really good movie.
Yes.
I think it's out now where anyone can watch it. And the Coen brothers wrote it. You can tell the Coen brothers fingerprints on it. So you got Coen Brothers and Janusz Kaczynski at the top of his lungs, and Spielberg. It's really good.
Who's Kaczynski? What is he doing?
Spielberg cinematographer.
Oh, wow. Okay, sure. Yeah, it was amazingly shot. Absolutely.
Who's been with him since Schindler's List. And Spielberg was using a variety of hold on, my wife is texting.
No problem.
A variety of cinematographers throughout his career, all very good, all A-list guys, Bill Zsigmond. But when he met Janusz Kaczynski in the early 90s and they did Schindler's List together, they have never not made a movie together since. He's lit every movie since. So it's been like this 25, maybe even 30-year marriage of them making all kinds of stuff. And you can actually track it as, Spielberg got much better. And started taking ballsier material and also never could figure out when the movie ended. All those things happened. Minority Report. Like, look at the cinematography in Jurassic Park 1 and Jurassic Park 2. Jurassic Park 2 with Janusz Kaczynski is 50 times better. It's amazing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. No, and I'm a sucker just for a good Cold War story, and I do love the Gary Powers U2 story. I think it is really interesting.
And I'm clearly a giant cinematography nerd. Boop.
Yes, you are. Well, that's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. And, I was happy for Stallone that he got the nomination. I'm very disappointed that both Ryan and I always get my Ryans mixed up. Ryan Coogler for Creed?
I thought it was Ryan Gosling, so I'm...
It is, yeah. But great director, love Fruitvale Station, love Michael B. Jordan. I mean, the guy is so natural. He
kind of almost survives the Fantastic Four movie, too.
I still haven't seen it, so I can't say. There you go. I know. Oof.
I've actually seen it. Like, most people shit on it, they haven't seen it. I actually saw it.
I'm waiting for cable. I'll wait for cable on that one.
There are many, many bits and pieces of my work and Mark Miller's work that have made it into the movies. And it's been what's amazing is how much of it is all top quality. Like Maria Hill in the movies is fantastic, right? And I'm so proud, and all the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff and all this stuff, and Jessica Jones, obviously, all of it's like, other people taking our stuff and making sometimes better stuff with it, right? So we really lucked out in this area.
Yes.
The premise of the recent Fantastic Four movie is heavy on me and Mark's Ultimate Fantastic Four. As many people pointed out, I'm not bragging, it's just pointed out. So it is, I think we were owed that something be like, woo, don't do that to our stuff. So it was, So I watched it and went, oh boy.
Well, let's talk about let's talk about that for a second and talk about the positive things that have been happening in comic.
Nobody's seen it.
I saw Spotlight. Spotlight
was good, but no one's seen Fantastic Four episode.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I watched Spotlight like 3 times.
Saw it twice, but go on.
We get the screeners.
Yes.
So we have them in the house, and I watched Bridge of Spies twice. I watched Spotlight a bunch of times, and I ended up watching Steve Jobs a bunch of times as well. I just really liked them. Also, I would have people, once I saw, holy shit, Bridge of Spies is great, I would have people over to watch it again. You know what I mean?
I was doing the same thing.
And
another one like that was Trumbo for me.
You know what? Haven't seen it yet. It's literally the next one on my list. I just haven't gotten to it.
It's incredible and really captures Hollywood of that time. Everyone who plays famous people in that film, they're all amazing. Louis C.K. is amazing.
Yeah.
The guy from Steve Jobs, one of the nerdy techie guys that he really is browbeating throughout the movie, plays Edward G. Robinson in Trumbo.
Oh, Michael Schulberg. Yeah, he was in A Serious Man by the Coen Brothers.
Yes, that's right. That's right. My God, he is incredible as Edward G. Robinson, and it's just a small role. The guy who plays Kirk Douglas in Trumbo is amazing. The guy who plays John Wayne
by the way, for people going, wow.
Who are these
credits
people?
Of a name of an actor of a movie you haven't seen, and you know who the cinematographer is on every Steven Spielberg movie, and yet I don't know the name of most of my cousins. I have to be reminded.
A lot of awkward family reunions.
No, my brain decides what it cares about, what it doesn't.
and Cranston really becomes Trumbo. I've seen the PBS documentary. They even have footage of Trumbo at the end of the film during the closing credits, and you will be even more blown away at how much he transforms himself into Trumbo. I'm curious to see his Lyndon Johnson, because I can't picture
Hope it's great.
playing Johnson.
I heard it's amazing. No,
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch it. I haven't gotten to it yet because I've been too busy watching Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn on YouTube.
Why?
I don't know. I just got into you stumble something on YouTube. Everyone, and then you're right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I hit my mute button. I didn't, so I had to come up for a second. That was very funny. Tough. No, I'm good now. Tough it out.
You were reenacting something from The Revenant, like a bear attacked you.
Yeah, but speaking of Revenant, I got to be honest. I know the guy's a genius. I know Leo's a genius, and Tom Hardy and everyone that's in that movie. I have no interest in that movie. I don't care. I'm not a big wilderness. I appreciate the idea.
You're not, because you look like you totally.
Yes, I do. I am the brawny paper towel.
You look like Deliverance. It's just
Can we pitch a 10 here, please? Can we rough it a little bit? No, roughing it is room service is done at 10 o'clock.
I understand. No, my hilariously, like my wife, like every once in a while, one of our friends goes, "Hey, we're going camping. You want to come?" And she looks at them like, "What the fuck?" Like she's not even speaking English. It's the funniest thing. She's so hilarious.
Well, and you're in Oregon, so I mean,
and a lot of people go camping. There's beautiful places to do such a thing, or just go hiking. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, but you bicycle, so you.
No, I would do it. I would do, but
you would camp for real?
I've done it.
I'm shocked. Really?
Now that there's Wi-Fi hotspots, for sure I would. No, but we got kids, and the kids, hey, let's go camping. The stuff they want to do.
Yeah, they want to do it. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, but my wife's like, "What?" She doesn't understand it. It's hilarious.
I do understand. Well, no, and all right. So we started to get into it with Deadpool, and that I agree. It might open the door for inferior movies trying for a Deadpool vibe to happen. Or
just studio people not understanding why it was successful, and it's one of those things that you can't just imitate it. It has to come from within the character and from within the creators. You can't fake it, is what I'm saying. And a lot of things like that get faked, and they're terrible. And but in this instance, faking a rated R on something that shouldn't be could be just a disaster, and that's my I was talking out loud about just this pontificating about it.
Oh, sure.
And then it hits the internet with me going, I hate rated R stuff, and everything's going to get ruined. I'm like, that's not what I said. I have having a thought. In the world. Anyway,
I've liked Mark's collaborations with Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah. Again, that's how Mark sees the world, and that's the kind of entertainment he wants. So it's pure. I mean, I've known Mark forever. This is what he likes, and there's a difference between I'm going to make something that I like versus I'm going to give people what I think they want. And this is the struggle we have out there, right? There's all kinds of cool naughty stuff. I mean, Powers is naughty, Preacher is naughty. I like it, I do, and I don't want to see the Teen Titans banging each other. I don't know.
I think I don't think it's going to be as wide.
Actually, that was wrong. No,
yeah, exactly. I would actually like to see Starfire and Dick Grayson get
of age, older teens,
right? Well, like Wolfman and Perez depicted them back in the 80s.
There you go.
They were like late teens, early 20s. They were,
I just had this flash of maybe people have only seen the Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go and went, ew, the fuck are you two talking about?
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, that's, go ahead.
Not those make-believe Teen Titans, the other make-believe Teen Titans.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
Let's just cut all this out. So listen. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm doing all right. Everything's good. Actually, today interviewed a filmmaker who did that Jeff Jones documentary from 2 years ago.
I don't think I ever saw that.
And you know Jeff Jones, of course, from the studio.
Mm-hmm.
For younger listeners, well, for younger listeners, and I'm sure I explained it on the Word Balloon episode as well, but Bernie Wrightson, Michael Kaluta, Barry Windsor Smith, and Jeff Jones.
All genius.
Yeah, and kind of were the image creators of their day in the 70s getting together and saying, you know, we're going to make this fantasy art book alongside our usual commercial work for Warren and DC and Marvel and the like. You know, again, this is in 1976. And it's amazing. And Jeff Jones is kind of the, you know, guy of the four that I think people know the least about, and has an incredible story.
Amazing story, yep.
And yeah, the documentary is just incredible. And Louise Simonson.
How have I not seen this?
Dude, I'm telling you, it is so good. Well, I think because unfortunately, and this was a very interesting thing that the filmmaker told me as well, because Jeffrey Catherine Jones referred to herself as Jeffrey Catherine Jones after she transgendered. Apparently there are some who might take offense that she would still say, it's okay to call me Jeff. I still think of myself as Jeff, but I am very comfortable being a woman now. She has tried to get it shown at certain events, and it's difficult for her to get a full screening.
Oh, okay.
And that's too bad. I'm disappointed to hear that. And I think it's a very important story, and there are really interesting life lessons in it. But also, my God, look at the man's, and at the time, the man's art and the person's art. It's incredible.
Yeah, not even at the time. His recent work's great too, right? Isn't it?
Well, she unfortunately, she passed away from emphysema.
What?
Complications from emphysema. Oh, yeah, she passed away.
When? I swear to God.
For 2000, I want to say 2012 or 13.
Jesus, how did I not know that?
Yeah, and it's sad. Jones's daughter is in the film and delivers a eulogy.
I was a huge fan.
Yeah, I mean, and the cool thing is, though, she wants to continue to do the other members of the studio, and she's working with Barry Windsor Smith on something, which is fantastic.
Wow, great.
So yeah, Maria Cabardo is her name. Here, I've got it right here. Better Things: The Life and Choices of Jeffrey Catherine Jones. Kino Lorber is the film distributor.
Mm-hmm.
I had never heard of them. Mm-hmm. Maria Cabardo is the filmmaker. And yeah, Brooklyn filmmaker, and she's working on a new film now. But it's great, and I'm trying to get screenings in Chicago for her, and I'm going to do what I can to help her get more screenings, because it's a fantastic film.
I would love to see this.
Yeah, really, really cool. And you can buy it at Amazon. You can download it at the website, but you can't. It's not streaming anywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, and that's unfortunate too. And I think maybe because it's a smaller distributor, I don't know what kind of access they have to streaming deals, or if they want to pursue them. You know, I don't. Yeah. It's weird, because I think it is tough for documentaries. Just like Louis C.K. talked about the short subject documentary award. I think a lot of that is what he said. Funny but true, you know.
So funny.
Yeah, these people put all their efforts into these small movies and stuff, and you know, a lot of times they just don't get seen.
No, because I really related to it, because most people, when they win their Eisners, are still up and coming, or and it's just comics. So in your head, you go, "Whoa! If I ever won an Eisner, right? That's our Oscar, right?" So I won one, and the next day I was back drawing caricatures, going, "Oh, I thought this would be different." So
I get it.
So that idea, because I remember, like, he made that joke about your Oscars are going home in limos, their Oscars are going home in a Pinto, or whatever he said, and that is what it's like for comic book people. So it's very funny.
Absolutely. I wanted George Miller to win. I was really hoping he would have won Best Director. I got to be honest, because there's a career. And how great is it to be 70 years old and still be, the man? Yeah,
I just showed this thing in class yesterday about the cinematographer of Mad Max, who's also a man in his 70s, who won an Oscar for The English Patient. Like he's been at it forever, and to the work of two elder statesmen that is so revved up, and it's like and it's so funny because they're like. That's how you make an action movie. I'm like, he's been doing it forever.
Exactly.
Like someone's like like that quote in Visions of Light where someone says, all these great reviews for Easy Rider about the new cinema, and it was the cinematographer is 65 years old.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's fantastic.
It's just very funny.
No, but true. Well, and that's again more of what's the better things, the better examples of what's happening in genre fiction in film and television right now,
and comics,
certainly. Well, that goes without saying, and we'll get to the comics and everything. But no, I'm interested in what you think of. What do you think? Have you been watching the CW shows?
No, I honestly no, and it's not of a diss of any kind. I have a lot of children and a lot of jobs. And
are any of them watching any of the CW shows?
No, they're not.
They're not.
My oldest went from iCarly to Judd Apatow. There was no middle.
Is she watching Girls?
No, not that.
Okay,
then. But
all right then. Geeks and Freaks.
No,
Freaks and
Geeks, and she came into me and she goes, "Broad City, yes or no?" And I'm like, "Oh,
yeah, that's a tough call. No lie,
because
it's funny as hell.
The burgeoning comedy writer in her, yes. Your father, absolutely not." So I gave her this look that said, "I can't stop you." I watched all this stuff when I was a kid. Look at me, I'm fine.
Well, that's why I was going to say, is she 14?
She's 13, but a very evolved mentally.
I understand. No, I understand, and that's why.
Kids, but she's a very soulful 13-year-old.
And I also like the other show. Broad City's great. What's the other Comedy Central show with the other two women?
Oh, is it Inside Amy Schumer?
No, it's not Amy Schumer. It's
the one
sketch
about
show.
The adult babysitter?
Yes.
That's on my list. That looks very funny to me. And it's funny because they do a very good thing, when you tape when you record a tape, how old we are. When you tape Broad City, you get the last minute of whatever's on Comedy Central.
That's right.
And the last minute, and whoever's doing it, the last minute of Adult Babysitter is fucking hilarious. It makes me laugh every time I see it. So it's a very good commercial.
Yeah, it's a good show. Stephen Root's even on it. It's a good show.
Yeah, I'm in. But yeah, anyway, so it's just, I got fractions furious at me for not having seen Fargo yet. It's just there's so much
Fargo's
television. And
I understand.
And so much time making our own that when I sit down for my 10 minutes of quiet time, I go, "Oh, I miss Patrice O'Neill," and start watching Tough Crowd.
I forgot he used to be on that show all the time.
He was great on that show. I mean, hilariously, they would never put that show on today. That's what I was laughing at. It is completely inappropriate kind of material now that would never be on the air today. But pretty fascinating show. It's ridiculous.
I'm gonna have to revisit Tough Crowd because
incredibly racially insensitive, but it's all prisoners comedy. So everyone's getting taken.
Yeah. So. No, and I remember Pat Cooper at the time, I'm guessing late 70s, being able to throw down with those guys.
Yeah, and loving it. Them kind of setting it up so Pat Cooper will take him out. There's a lot of that on the show. It's like a Don Rickles thing. It's like, hit me, come on, Pat, hit me.
Absolutely. He just did Gilbert Gottfried's podcast, and I love that show. Have you heard it yet?
Gilbert Gottfried show? No.
Yeah.
I haven't. I'm actually a big Gilbert fan, but I haven't heard the show yet.
It's a great podcast. Well, and it's up my alley because, of course, he's talking to people older than the ones that I wanted to. He had Larry Storch on from F Troop, and he's 92 years old.
I actually am subscribed to it on SoundCloud, but I never get to it. So
it's great. Actually, he just had Jackie on. He had Jackie Martling on.
I heard all about it, remember?
And it was pretty funny. Oh, did Howard have a full review?
I'm in the Stern universe, as you know. So, and that's another thing. And I'm the only Stern fan. Happy he only works 2 days a week because that's about all I have time for. So,
does he only do 2 live shows a week now?
3 every 3 weeks.
Interesting.
He does 3 weeks in a row, so he does 9 shows a month.
Wow!
But long shows, and that's actually that's all I need.
I understand.
Why? But
no, I get it.
Yeah.
No, and
I
absolutely.
didn't.
And they're still great. I mean, I still hear occasional new interviews, and they're fantastic still.
He killed it with Sacha Baron Cohen this week. He
That's
killed it with Tina Fey last week. Like, really good. I've never heard them talk about that in interviews. When people I'm big fans of, sometimes you hear the same stories over and over again, you know?
Of course. Yeah.
Always finds and it's hilarious. Like, he had James Taylor on. He's wanted James Taylor on forever. He had James Taylor on 2.5 hours. Never.
That's fantastic.
No breaks. Wouldn't let him out of the studio until he got everything. Because he realized, like, I'm never getting him back in here. Like, it took 25 years to get him in here. He's never coming back. He just stayed with him. It was great.
That's really. I'm gonna have to look for that. That's excellent.
It's on. They and what's cool too is that if they kill something, it's on SoundCloud. They put them out. They put them out so people can hear them.
Oh, excellent! Very good. SoundCloud is kind of in trouble.
Is it
financially? Yeah, it's very weird. I just started putting Word Balloon at SoundCloud because I use Libsyn, and I had always heard, oh, you should put your stuff at SoundCloud too. I'm like, all right, fine. And yeah, I'm hearing they're kind of in financial trouble. They're not getting as many people, the content providers, going to the premiere version of SoundCloud.
Oh yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
All right.
No, it's very interesting, but yeah, I'm surprised. So that'll be if you have a podcast and you're leaning on SoundCloud, you better. I hope you got backups, because if you're keeping it all in their cloud, I don't know what's going to happen to that cloud.
Hello, what was that?
I'm still here.
Okay.
What, I don't know. I'm fine on my end.
Okay, that was weird.
So season 2, when do you guys premiere?
We'll be announcing very soon. When is this airing? When are we airing this?
I'd like to put it out either before C2E. I'd like to do it next week before C2E2.
Okay, well, we'll be announcing very soon, either at WonderCon or at Emerald City. I'm actually not sure. I'm not being cagey. Like there's 50,000 emails about this, and I can't remember where it landed. And we'll be. I'm going to come to WonderCon with all new stuff to show, which I'm very excited about. Both PlayStation and Marvel giving me all kinds of cool shit to show at my Spotlight panel, which I'm sad you're not at. And it was really hilarious. I should tell you this. They said, "Is anybody you like to host your panel?" And I'm like, "Oh, John's not coming, so no."
Oh, that's really sweet.
I said there was nobody else I wanted. I went, "Nah, all right, I'll just do it myself."
Wow. Well, thank you. That's
you. Nobody else.
You are. That is quite the compliment, and I am, believe me, incredibly angry that WonderCon is immediately after C2E2. I couldn't do it.
Is it after C2E2?
It's the weekend after. It's the immediate weekend after C2E2.
All right. Well, good. So at WonderCon, I'm going to show some cool new Power stuff. And just today saw some special effects stuff that was really exciting. Like really, really good. I can't wait for people to see. And we're in that place. Like the show looked a million times better before it was color corrected, and for just not to be technical, but there's other processes that the files go through. The color corrected stuff looks unfucking believable. It's like an entirely different show.
Well, that's
totally when we watch. So
when we talked about when we looked back at your first season and what you were telling us in terms of what you guys wanted to change for the second season, yeah, you did say that some of the art direction was changing and a lot of the cinematography and the look of the show would change in this second season, and you're satisfied with the changes?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. So it's just a great cast, and what
can you?
We got Michael Madsen. We got Trisha Helfer. We got Will Wheaton.
Yeah.
We got Will Wheaton. It's one of those we see Will Wheaton roll up his sleeves and dig in. You're like, oh, you know what, man? This is cool. People are going to go, look at you, Will Wheaton. It's like one of those kind of performances.
You forget that how good of an actor he was.
Good, cool. Yeah. And also, I had seen him in a short film that Ed Brubaker directed years ago where he was this good. And it was like a little crime piece that Ed did. And when he got brought up for this role, I said, he can do it. I've seen him do it. And so he's great. And Madsen's captivating, and I'm just, and our regulars and Susan Hayward brings it. It's just I'm excited, man. I really am. I really got really jazzed up, and we're going over the marketing campaign, and even that's cool. And it's really one of those It's that good feeling like, oh, it's better. Like anything better is good, you know?
Agreed.
So anyway, so we'll be out this spring or summer, I can tell you that. And then
Okay.
all in, hopefully people will dig it.
13 episodes, 10 episodes?
10. Just
10
like last
episodes,
season.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And same kind of release in terms of,
Yes, I think
like in clumps?
like the first 3 right away, and then weekly, and then you can just binge it. And if you want to wait a year, you can watch it on Crackle. And that's something else that happened to us. We were like
Absolutely.
the number one show on Crackle for months, and to the point where I even asked someone at Sony, "Do you guys just say we're the number one show?" They go, "No, you're people watching." And it was funny because I was getting like this wave of compliments and comments about Powers all of a sudden, and then this whole wave of X-Men comments, like I was just writing the X-Men. And I'm like, what's going on? It was like I time traveled, and it was because Powers hit Crackle and X-Men hit Marvel Unlimited, like at the same time.
There you go.
So
sure.
it was a funny, like a delayed reaction to a joke. Like I told a joke, I had to wait 6 months for a laugh. Yeah.
I understand.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
So it's just a reminder of how interesting things are in the world. We're so focused on the Wednesday Warriors, as they call them, the people that buy the books right away. But there's this, hurricane of people that get to it when they get to it.
Agreed. And I think honestly Marvel Unlimited is a good solution to people that do think, all right, I only have so much money to spend every week. I don't know if I can do the Wednesday Warrior thing anymore. And I've got several friends that do Marvel Unlimited instead and are very happy.
Tons of people on Marvel Unlimited.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's if you like to binge, it's the way to go, man.
Well, and then the other thing too, and you mentioned with Crackle,
some people can't wait.
Sure,
but that's the other fun thing that happens is they get to Marvel Unlimited, and we're all nerds. We know this feeling. They binge and then they get itchy. I can't wait 6 months for the next, and then they start buying. They start buying the books. And
understood. Yeah. Well, and then TV. It's funny now that after the initial. Let's watch a show on over-the-air TV, then immediately go to Netflix. All of a sudden, all the big studios are saying, before we do that, I know the CBS guy, the guy Les Moonves was saying, let's not forget about putting something on basic cable like we were doing it in the past, and then maybe we'll go to Netflix. So I think these initial contracts with a lot of the streaming services for some of these TV shows and some of these networks, there's going to be that added step again, and it'll be interesting to see how the public reacts to it.
And also, there's just you're right, and it's just a symptom of this larger thing that's going on, where again our culture is changing so rapidly, and the systems of delivering us our entertainment are switching very rapidly.
Yes.
And even watching my daughter and her friends and how they take in their stuff versus how we take in our stuff, and some of these entertainment giants are very quick on the uptake to figure out how to get their material into the hands of the people they want to get it to, and some people are very slow and they're stuck in their ways.
Yes.
And it's, from my perspective, very interesting. I get to listen to a lot of people that I work with and people I work for telling me, about stuff. And obviously Powers is on one of the platforms that is the alternative to network television and even Netflix. And,
yes.
and when it sees success with relative quiet compared to other things, and it still gets its numbers, that's a big eye-opener to these entertainment conglomerates, So things are changing very quickly. And if you look today, Sean Parker, that Sean Parker, got his funding to do a day-and-date movie release into homes. with Spielberg and J.J. Abrams and all these other people backing them up. So we may be a year away from, summer blockbusters are available in your home for $50.
Yeah,
they come out, and as they say, I got to tell you, it's with a guy with 4 kids, it's very hard.
Yes.
To get to movies like that. Like, I'm dying to take my kids to Zootopia, but they all have classes and, Taekwondo, and it's hard to, like, get it together. And then tonight, we were all, like, chilling, and, we watched, a Jim Carrey movie, and I was like, oh, we could have gone to Zootopia, but then you're out till 10 o'clock at night, so, but if we had Zootopia, I would have bought it for $50.
Well, that is going to be interesting, and I do get it for families. That totally makes sense for families.
Yeah.
Being Uncle Buck and being single and alone. Because I saw Robert Meyer.
Uncle Buck was a movie from 35 years ago that was John Candy. I'm sorry. I feel I always have to explain your references.
If it's pre-2000, I understand. You might have to.
No, I know. I've told you stories like this before, but the class I teach at Portland State.
Yes, I want to talk about
I'm co-teaching it with David Walker, who you should have on if you haven't yet.
Yes, I really want to have David. I've had Stanford on Green, and yes, I hope to have David on eventually as well.
I'm going to make this happen. And
thank you, bud. That'd be terrific.
And David and I are teaching, and this was his first time teaching with me. And in this one class, we're comparing and contrasting the language of film to the language of comics, and what people, and some of it there's a Venn diagram of crossover, and then there's differences. And we're showing clips of movies and great cinematographers and how they tell a story with imagery versus how a comic book artist tells a story with imagery. I'm showing movies that are, to you and I, not old movies.
Okay.
And then you always hear one of the students go, "Shit, I should see that. That looks good." And
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was a movie that came out like 10 years ago that to them came out when they were 9 years old. So why would they have seen it?
True. Very true.
I remember showed a clip of The Matrix. The Matrix came out, drum roll, in 1999, which makes it 17 years old. So if you're 19 years old, that's an old movie.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's haunting.
Yeah. I understand. Believe me, I understand.
That's a haunting thing.
Yeah. No, I'm aware of that, and I get all that.
And I heard my daughter loved Superbad, which is a very funny movie. And
10 years old?
Yeah, 10 years old to 13-year-olds. That's a funny old movie.
Is it 2006? Is it that far back or 7? It might be.
Oh, look at Jonah Hill. He looks like a baby. This is what I.
Well, or Emma
Stone.
What's her name? Yeah, Emma Stone.
They were babies. Yeah.
Yeah. And now they're adults.
It's just constant reminder that we're all close to death.
I know.
No, but to my daughter and to my students, The Godfather looks like T-Men. Thank you.
Good T-Men. There you go. Attaboy. Very good.
I heard you.
That's Turner Classic Movies, kids. It's on Tuesday night at 3 in the morning.
That's right.
That's fantastic. You know what's excellent this month on Turner Classic Movies? The Catholic League, the films that the Catholic League banned from the 30s through, I'm assuming the 70s or whatever. But, Antonioni is in there, and all this pre-code stuff from the 30s and 40s and 50s. And God, I remember I being a young teenager at the time, my dad telling me about Anatomy of a Murder, a James Stewart movie about rape from 1958. And my dad being really excited, going, "This was like an X-rated movie back in 1958. Like cities banned this movie."
That's funny.
And and it's we're just talking about a woman's torn panties, for gosh sake.
Yeah, I had that conversation. My daughter likes Monty Python a lot, and describing the chaos surrounding Life of Brian, which they actually made a movie out of.
Yes.
And then you see it, and you could see her going, "Really? Like, what's the problem?"
Yeah, all over this.
What's the problem?
No, you're right about that.
We're old.
Yeah, well, no, but the cool Rob Meyer Burnett, who is part of the group of people that are trying to make that Star Trek Axanar film, the fan film that Paramount is doing everything they can to obviously shut down. We were talking about that, and he is, he's kind of around our age and stuff. And I said, you need a Tarantino or some sort of hipster content creator that sees the old stuff and says this is why it's cool, and they get it, and they are able to reinterpret it into their modern creation, and it's you can see the inspiration, just like you can see Lucas's inspiration from the Searchers.
Sure,
in the opening scene of New Hope, when Luke's farmland is burnt out and everything, and if you compare the shots, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
And and so that's the thing, and that's what Tarantino always does. That's what they were trying to do with Spectre, the Bond film.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think of Spectre? We didn't talk about it at the time because that was before it came out after we talked.
I truly love the first half of the movie completely. It is just phenomenal, and I was actually like, what Roger Deakins did in Skyfall was such an achievement, like you've never seen in a big tentpole major motion picture.
Mm-hmm.
Just gorgeous. And this other guy matched him, and it really is something. Storytelling-wise, the first half of it, phenomenal. But they build up Spectre, the organization, in such a way, and then didn't pay off any of it in the second half of the movie.
I agree.
And
real wasted opportunity with Christoph Waltz. Real wasted opportunity.
Super, super small. And I know they were trying to make it very personal, and the word on the street is they didn't have a script. You know what I mean? They didn't have it,
Wow. Part of those Sony links, unfortunately?
No, not from Sony. Just this is on the internet. I mean, Daniel Craig said it. He said, we didn't have a script.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, but like Harrison Ford said that about The Fugitive, and they got it doesn't. It doesn't matter. You can still get it but it just seems that when you spend so much time making it very clear that Spectre is everywhere, just focusing on Christoph Waltz's character so much made it look okay. You got Christoph Waltz. There's still like 80 of them out there. Was that one woman who's like taking over all the whores, right? All the sex trafficking and whatever the fuck they were talking about. Again, I don't mean to denigrate sex workers, but it was crazy. Like that woman seemed scarier than Christoph Waltz at one point.
I understand.
Remember they were sitting on the table and she's like, I'll take over all the sex trafficking. I'm like, yeah, what about her?
That's excellent.
So, yeah, but it was beautiful to look at. I didn't hate it. It just, after Skyfall, it didn't.
Yeah, it was mediocre. I mean, I thought it was better than Quantum of Solace, where again they didn't have a script. But yeah, it's just something was missing. Something was missing, and again, there a lot of hidden fan service. We obviously didn't talk about Force Awakens, and Force Awakens was the right amount of fan service, and it wasn't.
Absolutely loved it, and for those who don't know, my entire day is consumed with Star Wars. I have a 3-year-old son. That's all he wants to talk about.
That's fantastic. That's great.
Constant. It is from the minute he wakes up to the minute he goes to bed. And also Star Wars is to him much like a cigarette is a delivery service for nicotine. Star Wars is a delivery service for my son to see Chewbacca. He really doesn't give a shit about anybody else in the movie. He just cares about Chewbacca.
That's great. I can appreciate that. Absolutely.
So,
wow.
And it's all day. He's hilarious. He comes home from school. I'm there to meet him at the bus. He comes off the bus like he's never said it. He says it every day, but he acts like he's never said it before. Hey, Dad, can we watch Star Wars? Like he says it like it's the first time he's ever asked. It's the 300th time he's asked. So
he's at the age where he can appreciate the holiday special because it's Chewbacca's.
That ain't happening. Listen, buddy. And parents will know what I'm talking about. You have to be very on Olivia. I didn't know this, but I lucked out because the 2 movies she wanted to watch every day was Finding Nemo and School of Rock. And School of Rock she watched every day for 3 years because when a kid finds a movie they love, that's all they're going to watch.
Yeah, they beat it to death. Absolutely.
And so you could get trapped into watching a movie over and over again that no matter how much you like it, it's a nightmare. Now, School of Rock, it ended up she's a musician. It worked out okay, right?
Yeah.
So then you also start thinking, wow, she watched School of Rock every day for years, and now she plays drums and guitar. Wow. So you want to make sure that whatever they're going to watch, it could actually turn into something that motivates their life.
Right. It's beneficial. Absolutely.
Yes. You don't want, you don't want them to watch the wrong movie. Now with Star Wars, we're okay. Now I don't know if you're on Instagram. I posted my daughter, my 5-year-old, who does whatever my son does. They're inseparable. So they watch Star Wars all together. She runs. I bought her a Rey costume. She runs around the house dressed as Rey. She grabbed a lightsaber, handed me a lightsaber, and said, "Fight me so I can complete your training." I have it on tape. I was actually taping because she was being cute, and then she said that, and I'm like, "Okay, no more Star Wars." So you guys, we're well into the weird area, but so it's all day long watching Star Wars, analyzing Star Wars, learning the life's lessons of good and bad through Star Wars, all day long.
First 3 movies? How many of them do you
No, that's the thing. So, thank you for reminding me. So, no, they've only seen the first 3 movies. They've only seen and little clips of the good stuff on YouTube, like when the Wookiees attack the stormtroopers in the second movie. Like stuff I think he'd like, or Yoda versus Palpatine, like stuff that he would dig. But I've never shown him the whole movie. I'm never going to show him Anakin and Amidala kissing. All that shit, right? So hilariously, we're laying on the floor of his room, and for Hanukkah, he got like this Star Wars card set, and it's got every character from every movie, right? So we're just laying there, and he's making a pile of the good guys and the bad guys. Super cute. He holds up a card of Jar Jar Binks and a card of Anakin Skywalker, and he goes, "Hey, Dad." I goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Where are these from?" Very accusingly, like he knows there's other movies,
right?
Like, well, like I go, "I don't know." But I will never show him the Christmas special, which I have seen numerous times with riff tracks. Cannot recommend it high enough.
Awesome.
You can find it. It is hilarious.
Yes.
They have a tape of the Christmas special from a Minneapolis screening of it, or New Jersey, with commercials. They tracks the commercials as well. I love it.
No, that's fantastic. I didn't know they did that. That's great.
Terrified. So everyone goes, show him the Christmas special. That'll make him sick of Star Wars, or that'll make him sick of Chewbacca.
Oh, no.
Because we talk about Chewbacca all the time. It goes on all
right.
And then I go, no. He'll like it. Because that's what he might like. That's what other parents have told me. The prequels, little kids, 3-year-olds, fucking love the prequels.
Of course they do.
So that's why I'm not showing it to him, because I'll be stuck watching Phantom Menace every day until he's 5. I'm not doing it.
That's true.
I'm drawing the line. Right? My brain's still rattling from Yo Gabba Gabba. I'm done. Right? I'm on my 4th kid. This is a lot. I've given it a lot. Anyway, so can you imagine if he actually liked the Christmas special and want to watch it every day?
Yeah, a lot of not Lola Falana. Was it Lola Falana?
No, it's fucking Jefferson Starship. It's Maude.
Maude, yeah, B. Arthur. It's Art Carney.
Art Carney just sticking it up like no. Actually, sounds like a heaven for you, really, if you take the Wookiees out of it.
It is Ed Norton. It is Ed Norton in space.
Yeah, and Harvey Korman
yes,
who was a genius, but at his absolute lowest.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that and Americathon, I think, are his 2 biggest mistakes. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just, woof.
But who was the African American singer that's kind of sexy and Grandpa Chewbacca?
It wasn't Lola Falana. Was it
Diane Carroll?
Yeah, it was Diane Carroll.
There you go.
I'm going to look it up while we're talking.
Wow.
Sure.
Yeah.
We don't want letters.
Exactly. Shame on me. I know. This is true. And you'll forgive me because I've been watching a lot of Cozy TV, one of NBC's digital channels, and there's a lot of Love Boat and a lot of Fantasy Island. It's
Diane Carroll, man. She's all sparkly.
It is Diane Carroll. Okay.
Woo.
And
if people listening to this, if you're at a computer, Google it. Hilariously, I remember for years you couldn't see the holiday special. Like It was like George Lucas had wiped it from the earth.
Yes.
And now it looks like I haven't Googled it in a long time. It literally takes you right to like 75 links of the full special.
Well, I know the bootleg VHS was at conventions for a really long time.
Yeah, that was the only way you could get it. But even when the internet first started, you couldn't find it. Now it's everywhere.
That's funny.
Yeah, it is funny. Woof. Oh,
but again, first appearance of Boba Fett.
The idea of showing it to my son and watching him love it, because he could love it.
Sure. Well, I was 13 when it came out, and yeah, it was horrible, but Boba Fett was interesting. Was that for? I mean, that's the thing. People now are like, yeah, what's the big deal? And it's like, that's when we discovered Boba Fett, that was amazing.
People are going to think I'm stealing jokes from the riff tracks, but Chewbacca's mother wears an apron. So that's how you know she's the mother. It's so insanely sexist. It's so crazy.
It's very Sid and Marty Krofft. Yep. Yeah. Well. What are you going to do?
So this is what goes on in my house all day.
Well, you got to guide them to the cool stuff.
He wants to watch Star Wars. We don't let them watch a lot of TV. We're pretty tight on the screens.
Okay.
But also the Disney Infinity Star Wars games, which you would never know, they're fantastic.
Yes. That's amazing.
Kids love them. Yeah.
I can believe that. Yeah. Absolutely. What about Vinyl for Olivia? The HBO show.
I haven't watched it yet. I haven't. I'm dying to see. I'm so excited. Susan Hayward, the star of Powers, is on that show as well.
Yes, she's great on it.
No, she had a really tremendous experience on that. And so that's that's very much next on the list, because
it's getting better. I have to admit, the first 2 episodes, I was like, I don't know.
Oh no, I think that's what I was yelling at you about online. You were like bitching about the facts of Vinyl, and
I got them wrong. I admit
it. And then people were pointing out that you had it wrong, but it was hilarious that you thought you were like the.
I was just asking, and also what got me mad was
sensed.
Well, what got me mad is there's one guy in particular that is like, what's the difference? Who cares? And I'm like, it does matter. If you're doing a fictionalized presentation, and it's okay, I don't mind mixing some fiction in with the facts, but you're not going to change the date of the moon landing.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, that's what I was saying, and I was corrected, because it just seemed like 1973 was too early for hip hop, and too early. Like about 2 years. It just seemed like it was just 2 years too early. And no, my New York friends who know the history very well are like, no, everything that they were talking about was happening then. And also, I got
I was going to goof on you online. It's like, it's funny that you thought you knew better than Mick Jagger about that.
Well, that's what didn't make sense to me. That's what didn't make sense to me. It's like, no, I would never question their knowledge. It's just that it was like, are they too cute for their own good, in that same way that the newsroom was just claiming, hey, we did all this stuff first. We were the people that kind of said,
the Sorkin newsroom?
Yes. And that's what was concerning me initially. And I got into it with one guy in particular who really just always rubs me the wrong way. And we had a little Twitter war about it and everything. Oh, I can't. I don't want to be mean.
Okay.
I don't want to be mean. I'll tell you off the air. And that's fine. Because I'll even cop to that, I even went a little too far. Because
you had a real fight. You had a real.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because the guy, because the guy's like, what does it matter? And I'm like, well, it does matter. You can't.
It does. I agree with you. It does matter.
Yeah. That's the only thing I'm saying is don't push the moon landing to 1967 or to 1971. Give it the right year that it actually happened and stuff. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's what I like about Vinyl, and it's getting that stuff. Even as I'm like, okay, fine, and the other stuff that they talk about, no, they're getting it right, and it's funny. But it's just there's something. It's still not quite there, so they still got to tweak it a little bit, I think.
All right. Well, I heard the pilot's amazing. Scorsese's part is amazing. Can't wait to see.
It is, but you just want to like Andrew Dice Clay.
I know. You know what? It was so funny. Everyone assumed I was watching it when it aired, and I just couldn't that night. I had work to do, and like 4 of my friends just texted me, fucking Andrew Dice Clay. And then I went, oh shit, like so many people that I thought he died. And
that's fun.
And I went to Twitter and I go, no, he's okay.
Yeah, not in Vinyl. Well, I'll be interested.
I go and I like a fraction was one of them, and he wrote like fucking Andrew Dice Clay, and I went, well, it's a weird time to fall back in love with Ford Fairlane. That was a joke like you and 3 other people will get.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and I like Andrew Dice Clay when he's being himself. But yeah, this acting, he was really trying hard for Scorsese, and I think trying way too hard.
Oh, was he? Oh, I loved him. People said like he's the best thing in the whole thing.
Oh my God! I was really like, okay, I get it. Let's get to the ultimate point with this character.
Oh,
exactly. Yeah. I'm an asshole. Tell me why I'm an asshole. It's like, all right, enough.
All right.
I get it.
You're gonna make me watch it tonight, aren't you? Now I want to see it.
So anyway,
Yes.
but all right, so that's another one. And no, what else? Well, tell me. Hey, what can you tell me about CivilWar, big boy?
All right. Well,
Civil War 2.
yeah. So we.
I'm talking to Spencer about the initial incident with what's going on with Shield, and that's kind of cool.
Say it again. What did he say?
Avengers. What's it called?
A standoff.
Is it Nick Spencer?
Standoff. Are you talking about?
Yeah, standoff.
Yeah, it's very cool. I like standoff.
Very prisoner-esque, which I love.
Well,
I mean, you know me.
Well crafted behind the scenes. You hear this stuff. Like I hear it a year ago, right? And I think I've told you this before. The weird part is like, I get you hear me stammer because I'm like shit. Like where's the rest of the world in this? Like I don't want to spoil anything. Like what do you know? Because I know stuff for a year from now. I don't want to that's my biggest fear is accidentally spoiling someone else's book. Like I even know stuff about like other companies that I don't want to accidentally, you know what I mean? No, I want them to tell their stories,
Sure,
and
absolutely.
I just don't want to accidentally say something I shouldn't say. So, but I will tell you that after Retreat, when this was laid out, we were all like, that is well crafted. That's good. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, and that's my interest in terms of, I enjoyed what Jason did with, and again, sorry, the last event, and unfortunately they come so fast and come and go. Original Sin, not Original Sin, after Original Sin. No, was it or Hickman? Shame on me.
Okay, Hickman, Secret Wars.
Yes, well, yeah, Secret Wars, I guess. Yeah, of course it was Secret Wars. Shame on me.
Yeah,
and I liked it. And I liked the conclusion of Secret Wars and stuff like that. I thought that was great.
Yeah, he hit the landing totally.
Absolutely,
drained him of his life.
and I'm interested in what you're doing with certainly we've seen the first 2 issues of Miles in the 6 or whatever the hell the new world is now called.
Well, yeah. Well, here let's go back to Civil War. So here's the deal there. So,
yes.
They were having talks amongst themselves about the year and next summer, and we had talked. Axel and I had talked about some thematic stuff that was on our minds that we were like, well, we have to find a place to express this in story, right? So we had a theme, and that theme, something that mattered to us, and one version of it is accountability. We live in a world where just now people are like, it was weird, like people think they could say whatever they want online and it doesn't matter. It does matter. It could matter to you personally. It could matter to you larger than you personally. You know what I mean? It matters what you say. It matters what words you put out in the world. And you're hearing stories now of people not getting hired because they're being shitheads on Twitter 4 years ago.
Yes.
You're hearing about and then they're shocked. Well, what does it matter what I wrote when I was 17 on Twitter? Well, it does matter. You're a shithead.
Right.
So you're talking about racial stuff or just insensitive stuff, things like that. And we're talking like that's a very interesting thing, right? But still, you see people talk to other people, and they don't think it matters. Like they don't think their words matter. It does. And I think some of what's happening with these Trump rallies is an extension of that. There you see BuzzFeed had some guy outside a Trump rally, screaming, "Go back to Africa" to black people, and he's all over the internet today. Yes. And I'm sure by Monday this guy's life is ruined, right? And I'm sure he's going to be stunned that that's what happened, right? Or like I think Patton Oswalt posted this. This one woman made a Heil Hitler sign.
Yes, I saw that.
You saw that, right? And someone wrote, the first case of someone being memed to death. This poor woman, you know.
Right. Well, yeah, the public shaming, the dentist that shot the lion last year.
Yeah. I mean, the accountability.
Yes.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't mean poor woman. Like I feel bad for her. I don't feel bad for her. She's making Heil Hitler
right
signs of thing. It's just that she has no idea what's coming her way. You know,
that's right.
They don't understand. You can't do that. So and the other version is like and it's calmed down this year, but last year every 5 minutes there was a cop being recorded beating on somebody.
Right.
And like, there's not going to be of course, there's going to be accountability. You can't do that, So it's a world we live in, where everyone's got a camera, everyone's filming, everyone. You know what I mean? Our culture has changed, and how we relate to each other has changed. And these people who are being embarrassed, voted off the island by this stuff, are the people who are kind of
publicly shamed.
Yeah, they're it's fascinating. So we were talking about it, and then he called me back and goes, listen, we had this big, this conversation blew up about accountability and whatnot, and do you want to write this story? And I thought of you because, you and I had this conversation, and, and I'm like, I'm not sure if he thought I was going to say yes, because I was literally in the Powers offices, but it's like, I want to tell that story. Like there's a story to tell. And then he said, we were talking to Dan Buckley, our publisher and the president of Marvel, about it. And he said Civil War 2. And the back, so for people who think we're just going, let's do Civil War 2. And he goes, the heroes are going to fight over this. People are going to say, oh, it's Civil War 2. It will, let's just call it Civil War 2. Like, why
try to come up with a different name of it?
Yeah, exactly. Why pretend it's not that? And that's, and I actually had often said, why don't we do sequels to some of these? Like, I don't think there should be a sequel to Secret Invasion, but there's things that, it's very interesting if there'd be a sequel to Civil War. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And by sequel, I mean sequel in Godfather Part 2 kind of thing, where the story of the characters are continue, but it's a different story. Almost. I think that's my favorite sequels are those that like 27 weeks later. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I actually haven't. No, go on.
It's a far superior movie to 27 Days Later. And that
really,
and that is, by the way, the comment that I will get the most shit on online for saying out loud, but I said it. What's interesting about it is, even in the context of this world and these zombies, it's a completely different genre. It's almost a more military story, and it's very good. I think it's very, very good.
Interesting.
And I thought of that. I thought about the sequels that were spiritual sequels or world sequels more than story sequels. And this was that. I go, yeah, we can do Civil War 2 and the trick is not to repeat every single beat of Civil War. That's the easiest thing you could do. Anyone could do it. Let's just repeat Civil War, right?
Right.
Or we can let's come up with a completely different story that the connective tissue is that these heroes are willing to fight maybe to the death over, and that's the similarity. So there you go.
Okay. And have you guys had the big powwow with the press in terms of laying out players and things like that, or does Nick's story still have to happen before we get to other stories?
No. We're still teasing out, but most people have seen. Here's what people know: there is an Inhuman that has found its way into the world, who is seeing visions of the future, and yes, there have been other characters that have had visions of the future. There's something different about this one. And the vision, and so some of the heroes are like, oh, we can use these visions to fight to make the future the way we should be. But there's something about the visions that makes the other heroes go, you got to let the world play out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and I'm being very careful not to spoil stuff, but there is something very specific about what's going on here that makes it an arguable point. And much like with Civil War, and I know some will argue, but there was no good or bad guy. There was an argument that to this day fans still fight over, and they're going to start fighting again when the movie comes out and has the same argument. Team Iron Man, you know.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, celebrities are now arguing over this. Whose side are you on? Jeff Loeb's great addition to the Civil War play. He was the one that first said out loud, "Whose side are you on?" And so this story that we're telling, which some people understand, has Carol Danvers on one side and Tony on the other as the, I guess, captains of the team, for lack of a better word. They are they're either opposed or for, you know, using this, and things start to spiral very quickly in the Marvel Universe. But I can tell you what I'm very excited about is that from the first beats all the way to the end, it is very different from the original Civil War.
Tell me how the room has changed when you guys do the summit and go over this, because there are new voices and there are more diverse voices obviously going on at that.
Here's what I like about the room. I do miss my a lot of my very good friends are not in the room anymore. You know, I did flash back to the original Civil War room. You know, it was Matt's first room, or Matt was, you know, Ed was there. You know, there are people that I have very fond feelings for that are
sure. Jeff was there, Mark was there.
And, you know, listen, and Jeff Loeb and Mark Millar, and you know, CB is now moving away, and Joe is off in another part of the company. You know, there's just a lot of you know, all people I'm still friends with that, but they're just not in that room. But what is in the room is a good mixture of people who have seen it all. Mark Waid being the poster boy for that, and new faces of like G. Willow and
yes,
and you know and the ilk. So there's it's a nice mixture of those two things that I think is what always makes that room great.
Is David in the room now? I know you said you work with him at your college, but is David Walker? Has he been in the
room yet? He had just gotten his first gigs at Marvel.
Okay,
I would be shocked with the success, and I know personally the delight from Axel of Power Man and Iron Fist that
it's tremendous.
He wouldn't be in the room next time. I absolutely will be.
That's cool.
But Coates was there. The guy's doing Black Panther. He was
yes.
You know, and my friend Sam Humphries, and
yes,
it's all people I like. There's no one that, you know, I'm not saying it's like, well, my friends are going, but it's people I like. It's just, you know, people you have a history with versus not, you know.
Sure.
So the difference is we were kind of developing the story very quietly and privately amongst ourselves. I decided to write a draft of the first issue as a discussion document. It wasn't an approved story or anything anyone asked for. I said, you know, instead of writing just like a blah, blah, blah outline, which I always find boring. If they're boring to read, they're boring to write. They never get across the emotional impact that you intend, you know? So you write, like even Jessica Jones, I wrote a script. I didn't write an outline. I wrote a script and I said, here's what it would be. Or here's a version of what it would be, right?
For Netflix or for the comic?
For the comic years ago.
Go on.
Every time I write an outline, it's fucking like pulling teeth. My writing doesn't, you know, but when you write a script and you go, here's Jessica and here's how she handles cases and what's, you know what I mean? It's the, for me, it's the...
proof of concept?
No, it's just you're giving what it actually. Here's what it actually.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
okay.
So I did. I said, you know what? I was doing a lot of interesting writing exercises about the ideas of this storyline. So I ended up putting them together in script form, and I handed it to Tom and Axel just to discuss it. And then they said, you know what? Let's give this to the room so everyone can discuss it. I said, I'm worried that people will think that I've written over them already. Like there's, you can't discuss this. It's already written. Because writers are very sensitive to other writers, you know.
Their territory.
Wrote it, you know. It's one thing if you're discussing an idea, but listen, you wrote a script. It's 40 pages. You know, anybody, even people don't like you, would be like, "Well, listen, you wrote it," or you know. But it actually worked out well because it set a. We actually had a very good conversation, like because it was like everyone had read a story that they can now talk about, much like we were just talking about movies we'd seen. So. Mm-hmm. So we were good to go, and from that that palate cleanser, as it were, or whatever you call it, we got to we really blew some shit up. It was fun, and we had people offering to blow their shit up, which always that's always nice when writers like, hey, you know that thing I said 2 hours ago? Fuck it, let's do this instead, and we're like, oh no, we're not, no. You know, people literally offering to give me, you know, some cool thing that they had to put in the story. And I'm like, no, that's your story. I'm not going to take that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was cool. I actually really appreciated it. And so I've written, already written the Free Comic Book Day. It's done. That's already at the printer. That's a brand new story. That's a very big chapter for Civil War II. It's a very big one.
Is that your initial story that you presented to the room?
No,
or
my initial story is in Civil War I.
Okay.
But it's different.
Well, and that was the other thing I was going to ask. They did add to that story, and that story did change once it hit the room.
I said, listen, guys, no matter what you guys say, this is not this. It's just me writing into the wind.
Right.
This is just this is an exercise. Once it sits down and everything has to be crafted and rearranged, and you know, and that's also I wrote it without hearing other people's plans for their books, you know. And then also you can get to like day 3 and someone goes, "Oh my God, you know what we should do with Howard the Duck?" And then you go, "Oh shoot, I gotta," you know, I could see that in the first issue. So yeah, so it's basically they're fighting over Howard the Duck.
I was going to ask is how. Well, no, I remember your minor frustration that Howard showed up in Secret Invasion. But Chip is obviously up and running with Howard and everything.
Every time I work with Laniel, fucking Howard the Duck showed up. I've never written,
Laniel, you go on.
I have never written the words Howard the Duck in a script. He showed up 4 different times when I work with Laniel. Anytime I said all the heroes are here, there's fucking Howard the Duck with a Tommy gun. So, and hilariously, Chip Zdarsky keeps DMing me things for Howard to do, or two, none of which I can tell you right now because they're spoilers at the moment, but I will share them next time we talk.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I'm glad.
They're all funny, and they're all terrible puns that only he could get away with, and whatnot. So anyway, so it was very interesting because usually there's like a discussion document, and we all read the discussion document and talk about, like, here's an idea we have, and here's where we are with it. And instead of that, here's some scenes. Here's some scenes, and here's the power that scenes could have, and here's where we could go. And it made for an interesting conversation. So we have the Free Comic Day, brand new story, me and Jimmy Chung. A very
fantastic. Hey, that's great.
Yeah, a very important chapter in the story. Then there's Civil War Zero, which is me and Olivier Copiel, who I've not worked with in years. I'm so happy to be working with him again.
Since House of M, right?
No, we did Siege together, and we did we've done a few other like issues here and there. Like I grab him every time I can.
That's great.
He's one of the artists like Jimmy. You just kind of have to wait in line. So I
understand. Jimmy takes his time. Absolutely.
I get to the front of the line. We have our fun, and I get to the back of the line, and I wait again. It just so happened that these artists who I have a nice history with, we've never made a bad comic together, became available for this many pages during this window. So I would stop what I was doing and go, okay, I'm going to write this for them and this for them. Worked out great. God bless Tom. He always takes care of me in this area. And so, but the main series is myself, David Marquez.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
good. Yeah.
And Justin Ponsner, and that we are off to the races, Bubba.
I believe it.
So
that's cool.
I'm writing the last issues now. My goal is to have everything but the last issue written by the next Marvel retreat, which is in April. But regardless if I hit that goal or not, I will have created an environment where, barring any family emergencies or whatnot, it will ship on time like clockwork.
8 issues?
It's 6. Now I think it's 7. Something happened in issue 3 where I said, hey, we could do this. Because you're still developing story even as you go. And there's so many parts. Sometimes people get confused by that. A lot of events add an issue, like Secret Wars added
sure.
DC's had a couple that add an issue. And what happens is you get in, and you, even having it outlined, and I do have this story pretty tightly outlined, is that there are so many players and so much involvement by so many players that when you actually start writing the story, and I learned this in the writer's room on Powers, they're called WPs. And well, what's a WP? It's a writer's problem. That the outline's the outline, and then the writer has to go figure it out, right? And you get there, and you go, okay, this Black Widow versus Gamora scene is fantastic, but oh my God, Groot! Right? And then you go, I have this great idea for Groot. And then you're like, oh my God, I need an extra page. And then you need an extra page here. And it's just, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, and in this instance, I had found an interesting way to deliver the story of issue 3 in what I think is a very unique way to an event. And it was not in the outline, and I handed it in, and I said, this is not what I said I was going to do. And it was immediately approved. It was very hard to do, so I'm glad that they approved it because it took forever. But it does add an issue to the story.
Okay.
So it happens. And
sure.
I'm so glad it's happened to almost every other writer who's done these, because you always feel like, shit, why can't I fucking tell the story in the issues that it was allowed? And then you realize, because there's 700 people on screen. That's why. There's a lot going on.
No, I understand, and I understand for events and stuff like that. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they should be big epic stories.
Yeah, and that's it. But at the same time, I think also one of the reasons they called me is, and this is no slight to Jonathan or Esad, is that they definitely were hoping that it would ship on time. And then me and David have never missed an issue together
I understand.
All the Spider-Man, Iron Man. So we're going to bring the thunder and bring it in a timely fashion. So, because I know even people were like, we were announcing Civil War 2 while Secret Wars is still going on. And that was never the original intent. It was never the intent for Iron Man to start shipping before Secret Wars is done. But it was just, it just kept going.
I understand that too. An event running late isn't anything new. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the thing. The avalanche of what must follow the event really does kind of,
and you know what? And the books are like backing up and backing up. And we're all still working. But listen, here's the thing. All of us, and this is why I don't mind when an event runs late, for my taste, and I think Secret Wars is a perfect example, is that we all remember Infinity Gauntlet starting with George Perez and ending with Ron Lim. Both excellent artists. That book was supposed to be drawn by George Perez.
Yes.
And every single page that Ron Lim drew looks like it was supposed to be drawn by George Perez. So I think we'd all rather have full Isad art on Secret Wars than 7 issues of Isad and 2 issues of somebody else, no matter who they are. So that's my feeling on this. The delay is worth the while. Like, remember, you and I remember how late Camelot 3000 was?
Yes, it was.
Ronin. These things were forever. Would you rather it was all Brian Bullen, or that the last issue was Romeo Tinghal? No, you want it all to be Brian Bullen.
No, you're right. Dark Knight? The original Dark Knight.
That's true. Yeah.
Incredibly late.
And hey kids, if I can make us sound old again, before the internet, where you literally just had to go to the store every week and go, is it in? Nope.
Yep, absolutely.
You didn't get updates on the internet from the creators of the publisher. You just fucking, a year of me coming in and going, are they making it still? I guess so. It's a hit.
Yeah, it's no, you're right, and also or being privy to the summits that happen with the direct market sellers, the merchants, and the song and dance that we all learn about behind the scenes of each publisher saying, well, this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it. Yeah. What do you think?
Yes.
Or not really what do you think, but like it or not, the trade's coming.
Yeah, exactly.
This is our plan.
Yeah.
No, I understand. I
will say, it's some people were, there's an instinct by some to have a very conspiratorial or negative view of, an event or a sequel. You know what I mean? Anything like that is, you're going to get people going, oh, here we go again.
Well, because, some events haven't lived up to the expectation.
Yeah. Well, same thing with movies, same thing with television. Some do, some don't. Some come out of nowhere and surprise you. And this one, I didn't have to do it. I had a story in my head and went, shit, I have to do it. Like, once you got a story in your head that you feel all into,
sure,
it's hard to come up with a reason not to. And that's because even I said, Axel, I go, I know you're probably going to be surprised I'm saying yes, but hold on.
Sure.
My phone, I must have said serious sometimes. Sometimes when you say serious, Siri just turns on and starts recording you. So I just looked down at my phone. I just saw every bullshit thing I just said.
That's
hilarious. Out on the screen, and I went, okay. So anyway.
I have Siri call me Batman. I didn't understand you, Batman. And I love it.
You are single. That's a man having a relationship with his phone.
That's true. Yeah, I'm just exactly. I'm what's his face in She, Joaquin Phoenix in She,
yeah,
or her. That's right, her.
So anyway, so back to So it was very good for me personally on the set of Powers. Sometimes there's just a lot of hours where.
Sure.
I do have to be there, but I'm not allowed to touch the lights or the costumes. There's unions, so I'm just sitting there with my computer, and I had this big project in front of me. It just felt good, and also when you're so knee deep in the insanity of a TV show, which isn't like your real life at all. It's nice to have this thing that in comic books are my real life,
Yes.
So
yes.
It felt I really was actually appreciative of the having that project in front of me. So
very cool.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, David.
David's kicking ass, man. Loved Iron Man. So go
on. And we were talking about who should draw it, and I'm like. It's David Marquez's turn. It reminded me.
That's nice.
We talked to Steve McNiven and Mark, and knowing pretty well they weren't interested in it. Mark has very famously said online how much money he's lost writing the highest selling comic book of all time, and so I'm being sarcastic that we laugh every time he says that. It's insane. And but what his point was that it takes a lot of drafts and a lot of time, more time than normal, to do one of these.
Sure.
But I just saw in the new top 10 list, it's still number 4. You could stop bitching about how much money you're making. So 10 years later, it's still a top 5 book. You're all right. So, but I worked with Steve on other stuff, and I knew he wasn't going to want to repeat himself. So I knew we'd have his blessing. And then I thought, well, Steve and I were working on New Avengers, and he was killing it on New Avengers. Yeah. And it was obviously he's the guy to do Civil War. It's his turn. It's his book to turn down, right? So thinking along those lines, clearly it's David Marquez's turn.
That's fantastic.
On top of the work he was doing for me, Marvel had turned to him to create all those character designs and character templates for the all new Marvel universe. Like all that art was David Marquez, and so he was not only that, but almost in a Bagley-like fashion, he was becoming the visual voice of this generation of Marvel, right? And and it's his, But listen, we had pinky packed to stay on Iron Man together for a while, like, to really make it a thing. So for me to call up an issue later and say, "Hey, I know we said this thing, but he knew. Listen, being offered the brass ring at the company is a huge compliment. It's gigantic.
Sure,
it's the most concrete. For freelancers, it's so hard to know. Am I doing well? Am I kicking ass? You never know. And really, when as you've heard other people say, the only time you've done well is when they offer you another job. And like if you write a script for Daredevil and they call you up and offer you Spider-Man, that must have been a good Daredevil script, right?
Sure, absolutely.
So same thing with this. They go, "Would you like to do our big summer event?" That is a huge compliment. So I did have to say, listen, this is going to be a lot harder to draw than Iron Man sitting in his room staring at a computer.
That's true.
And it particularly the first issue is as people have seen, it's literally everybody. We've released some art, so people have seen that. It's everybody in the Marvel universe, and it just takes forever. So, but he's killing it. He's killing it. And what's great for fans is that David is the kind of guy who goes, "All right, Civil War 1 is still on the top 10. So there's a chance this book will be around for a long time. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make it the best book I've ever done." And just that makes it a treat for you, the reader. Like, and I mean, me, the collaborator, I'm like, "Oh my, this is going to, this is exactly the mindset you would want."
No, I'm psyched for David, and truly was planning on talking to him about Iron Man, and I liked how the first arc ended and everything too.
Yeah,
and that was a fun story. It was an interesting. We'll get into that with Doom and Tony and Madame Mask and everything that was going on. Or Madame Medusa.
Madame Mask.
It is Madame Mask.
Yes.
Okay, I did say it right. All right,
Medusa is the Inhuman.
Yes, that I know her exactly. I don't know. I got my. I'm sorry. The time change. I'm completely discombobulated.
Is there a time change tonight?
Yes, it's already happened here in Chicago.
Oh, it's my favorite.
I love it too.
No, because it takes out of my bike riding when it gets dark at 4 p.m.
Yeah, I know. I'm really looking forward to coming home while it's still sunny out as well from work.
But the hard part is getting the kids to go to bed when it's still out at 10 o'clock. You cannot convince a 3-year-old it's nighttime.
Yeah, I understand because the sun's still out. Certainly, I get it.
Anyway, so that's the origin of how it came to be. I'm looking forward to people to see it. I know that because I'm a writer who has gone there, has done some dangerous things with some characters that people love, that it's scary. And but at the same time, there's people who love that about me. Oh, good. He's going to blow shit up. Every day someone writes to me like, "Just tell me what page Hawkeye dies on." Just tell me what page. So I can
Avengers Disassembled for the younger people.
Says, "Can you just tell me what page it is so I can buy it from David? Like, I want to buy it now." Right? It was hilarious. It was very funny. So, and I told him issue 2, page 9. And anyway, so this is where it came from, and I feel very challenged and borderline overwhelmed in that good part, in that, wow, this is a big one. This is huge. And I know there's a challenge in front of me, even from certain people's perspective on events. You know what I mean? To prove them wrong, to get the story worth a goddamn, and show them something they haven't seen before.
Right, because the phrase, and again, event is kind of like spectacular, that if you have 100 spectaculars in a row, stops being it's not quite as spectacular as it used to be when it was, hey, we've never done this before, or man, it's been years since we've done this before. And summer events are kind of, okay, it's time for another
Well,
event.
it's an event and it's a sequel.
Yes.
So it's two things going with that mindset. It's two things going against it. But
Sure.
That's not. But so you don't want to be the two Jakes,
right?
You want to be, right. You want to be the Dark Knight. You want to be the one that went, wow, that is, the first one was really good. That second one is really good plus. Or that surprised me. I did not think that's what this was going to be. That's the kind of stuff I love.
Agreed.
So
no,
I feel we got it there. Marvel feels we got it. So we'll go. I mean, I know there's a lot of rumors online about it. I can't stand that. I gotta say, I appreciate the interest. That's very flattering. But there's certain people go online and just like spew. I know for a fact that this is what's going to happen in the story. And I don't, that's, and so here's what happens. So some people say stuff online that says flat out bullshit. Just pulled it right out of their ass. Not a true anything, right? And then there are people that may have heard something at a bar, at a con or something, right? And then they run online and they say it. They go, "Here's what I know," right? So I'm now stuck in a place where I can't deny the fake rumors, because if I don't deny the true rumor, you get what I'm saying? Like, if they're true and I don't deny them, then that means they're true.
Right.
So I can't deny anything. Boo-hoo, I know.
Well, I mean, obviously when the story comes out, it'll speak for itself, and the rumors will have died if they're completely wrong.
Yeah, they already died, but it was like annoying. Like, I want to surprise people with the story, and like the entire internet world is literally built to not let that happen.
Right. No, you're right.
I'm just talking about that's, I have that experience.
Of course. No, absolutely. Every story.
I was so fucking impressed with J.J. Abrams getting away with what he got away with. The machinery he must have had at his, the surprises that we saw in Star Wars. Like, I was genuinely surprised in Star Wars, and I had friends that had seen it months before me, and I was surprised. Like, nobody spoiled it.
That's cool.
So nice. Hilariously, kids at school spoil everything for the other kids at school. We were talking about Star Wars before. Force Awakens. Like, kids go right to school and tell you exactly what happened in Force Awakens. A 5-year-old neighbor of ours whose parents decided he's too young to see it. I said, "Oh, you haven't seen it yet?" Because my son had seen it, right? We had a long talk about what was real and what wasn't real. I was more worried about Chewbacca getting an owie in that movie, and then him than I was about the other stuff. Okay. Like, if Chewbacca gets an owie and lies down, I thought my son would have been in a coma.
I understand.
And he wasn't. He was just excited that Chewbacca was on screen. And this 5-year-old kid, I said, "Oh, you haven't seen Force Awakens yet?" And he just turns to me and goes, "Yeah, but the other idiots in my class spoiled it."
A bummer, man.
I know. No one lets you enjoy anything. So
it's
not just me, but boy, how impressive it was that the spoilers not coming out for this, and I haven't seen a spoiler for 10 Cloverfield Lane. Me and my wife were going to go see it tonight, but the kids were just needed us, so we didn't go. But I'm dying to see it before the spoiler hits.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I still haven't seen the first one, and I'm not sure how I feel about it.
It's not a real sequel. Much like Civil War 2.
There you go. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. So International Iron Man, who's doing that well, and who's doing regular Iron Man?
Invincible Iron Man is me and Mike Diodato, and has been for a few issues, and it will continue to be for the rest of the year, I think. He is killing it. We love working together. I love working with him. He's bringing so much.
So did he finish David's story? Did he finish the first story?
David finished the story. That's one thing. I fucking hate, if you can avoid it all. Sometimes you just can't avoid it, but I said, let's finish this first story arc, and then we'll start Civil War. And it was a little tight on the schedule, but we got it done.
Okay.
And then International Iron Man is Alex. And I told Alex, we have a story to tell with Tony Stark, and we can do to Tony Stark what we did to Matt Murdock. But you have to finish Scarlet, because we can't do anything until you finish the second book of Scarlet.
Okay.
So we did. He finished them. They're beautiful. They're coming out very soon.
Okay.
The next 3 issues of Scarlet are in the can, as they say in the business. And then Invincible Iron Man, International Iron Man comes out this week. Comes out Wednesday.
Oh, fantastic!
And it's the beginning of a very long look at Tony from a very unique perspective. Now, what our high class problem is, more people have read me and Alex's Daredevil this year than ever read it ever from 10 years ago. Because of the TV show. The TV show unleashed both Daredevil and the Jessica Jones trades.
Tremendous.
Crazy business. Crazy. And it's amazing. I love it. You know what I mean? Because it's work I'm proud of. I'm sure I wouldn't be proud of it if I looked at it, but in theory, having that only remembered it fondly, I'm proud of it. I'm sure I would cringe at it now. So I'm happy people are seeing it. So here we are about to start again. So it will take us a few issues to build to where we built with Matt in those first few issues. Don't take the entire experience of our 55-issue Daredevil run and compare it to one issue of Iron Man, but we have a plan to get there.
Okay. Well, and I enjoyed when you work with Mike as well. God, I mean, his Avengers stuff was fantastic.
I love Mike. I think Mike's one of the greatest artists in the world. I
agree with you.
I have Sarah Pacelli on Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Mike Gatto on Iron Man. Alex Maleev on Iron Man. Valerio Schiti on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
It's just and obviously Mike on Mike Oming on Powers and United States of Murder.
Yes.
It's every page that comes in is mwah.
Has the second United States of Murder arc started?
We have started it on our end. It'll come out. That took the hit with the Powers TV show happening. We didn't know we were going to get a second season. I didn't know, as we've talked about in the past, I didn't know what was success. And I ask because it's a new venture, right? Like, what is success? Like, what do you need out of this, right?
Right. What is Sony looking for from starting PlayStation and doing live-action television on the PlayStation Network?
Like, what do you want, right? And we would ask, and finally they gave us a number, and we hit the number.
That's terrific.
And it was great. I mean, I'm like, because it's a number far larger than anybody sees in comics, you know. And and we hit the number way before Crackle and everything. And just on PlayStation, and I'm like, oh great! And then they called up soon and said, yeah, we're doing it again. And so that was, you know, really amazing. Because that's where I have no control. You know what I mean? Like I don't.
Yes.
You put stuff out and everyone does their best and hopes for the best, but you don't know. You don't. So
I hear you.
And also same thing with Jessica Jones. I was more like curious to see how Jessica Jones was perceived by the world, because it was following. First of all, I'm just a showbiz whore like you, where you don't follow Kids and Animals. You don't follow a kick-ass Daredevil show, right? That it's good as you can make. And I thought the Daredevil show was amazing, and you follow it up. And I'd seen the first two Jessicas, and it was different, and much more psychosexual and about darker issues, and I'm like
darker personal issues. Well, Daredevil had its own issues as well. But
she's a and I was curious. And anytime there's sex involved, people, it's sex, religion, and politics.
Yeah, it's subjective. Absolutely,
people are just going to lose their shit no matter what happens.
Yes.
So I was like, and and who knew it was exactly the kind of sex everyone was looking for? Who knew? You never know. Everybody was happy with the sex. So I was very, I know, I was very just overwhelmed with the success of Jessica. It was truly amazing.
I was really happy.
And and it's from my perspective, like it was funny. Like I had seen it. I was relieved personally that the show didn't suck.
Sure.
I told you, like,
again, someone else took your baby and was playing with it and everything and turning it into something else.
And Joe Quesada took me to his apartment, sat me down in his studio, put it on, and basically didn't say anything. Just put it on, and I wasn't sure. Is he not saying anything because it's good? Or is he not saying anything, or is because he's like bracing me? Like, listen, you and I should do this privately. And I because it was a version that felt like that too. Like, listen, you should hear it from a friend. You know, that kind of thing, right? So I watched it, and me and 10 minutes in, you're like, holy shit. You know, and then even in my deep-rooted genetic Jewish neurosis, I was like, this, am I nuts, or is this pretty great? And then, but I liked it, but there's all kinds of things I like that nobody likes. So, like Newsroom. And so when it came out, I was like, what will the reaction be? I don't know. And when the reviews were like overwhelmingly positive, it was insane. And then I had this experience a few times where I was out and about with friends and we overheard people talking about Jessica Jones. Like, I never had that experience before. Like, I've had the weird experience of having, like, being somewhere and there's someone reading one of my books, and you want to, like, go up there and do kind of Steve Martin, Bill Murray shtick with them, you know? And I never do. It's like, you know, the reality of it's so douchey, right?
Excuse me, I couldn't help but notice you're reading my book.
Yeah, or you just come up and start writing on it. They start signing your name right where they're reading, you know? Like, I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted, like, because I do travel more than most, right?
Yes,
and I always want, like, I go to a lot of comic stores that the person goes, shit, what are you doing in New Mexico? And they go to me, are you? Because that's the only place that, you know, as we talked about before, like as Kelly Sue said, we're comic book famous. We're only famous in comic stores. And by the way, Apple stores. I should say that. I'm always made in an Apple store.
Hey, that's awesome.
That's Apple employee is a comic book fan, and they're so nice to us. It's unbelievable. It's hilarious because it's happened every time. Anyway, so my 8-year-old smashed an iPhone. That just dropped it by accident. It's one of those hits where it just completely smashed, you know. And I brought it in and to get it fixed, and not knowing this person knows who I am, I go, blah, blah, blah. And I give him the phone, and the guy goes, oh, dude, is everything okay at Marvel? Because he thought I threw the phone. It's funny. So anyway, back to, but anyway, so you don't know how these things are going to go, and I'm so off track with my Jessica story that I don't know what we're talking about. Oh yeah, but so yeah, with Jessica and with Daredevil comes this people complete word of mouth. I want more Jessica. Oh, you should read the book. I want more Daredevil. Read Bendis's and Miller's and Wade's, right? And then just over it, and then it's millions of people all over the world. It's such a Netflix is so huge,
sure,
right? And yeah, so it's crazy that something that you did years ago just finds a life bigger than it ever had the first time. It's crazy.
Last summer, we talked that there might be a new Jessica Jones material.
Yeah, there will be. I'll just flat out say it.
Okay, because
there is. Yep.
I don't know if you heard Sanford when he was talking about Power Man and Iron Fist with me, and I just wondered where his and David's story was going to go. And he's like, well, I don't know what to say. And I go, when Brian was on and we were talking about Jessica Jones and there might be a new book, and he said, wouldn't that be great? And Sanford just kind of ran with that during the interview when I'd be like, and, we might see Colleen Wing and Misty Knight. So wouldn't that be great?
Wouldn't that be great? No. This one, I don't think I should do, I don't mind when other people do Jessica Jones at all. And in fact, someone else is doing a little something with her that I'm pretty excited about. But I don't think anyone wants to see me do Jessica. a proper without Gatos.
Yeah, without Michael.
Gatos
Sure.
is working on another project right now. And
Okay.
But the second he's done, we're going to get to work.
Was just showing someone my Michael Gatos sketch of Jessica that he did for me back in 2000. I'm trying to remember the year. I had you sign it as well.
I remember. No, I have Jessica Jones artwork in this house that he gave me just out of friendship. And now that the show is what it is, I looked at it and I forget who I was. I was with Oming. Oming's like, that's a really nice piece. I go, there's no way in hell he's happy he gave me that. I have a lot of nice artwork that I've gotten from artists over the years. The two pieces I feel that way about are that, and there's no way in hell David Finch is happy he gave me the cover to New Avengers #1.
Wow, sure.
He gave it to me in such a lovely moment of collaboration. It was a very nice gesture. And then when the book hit, I was like, he really wishes he had. Because it's like a present that went from, here's a $50 present to, here's a $2,000 present.
I bet, it's so funny. It's Tim Seeley's birthday tonight as we're talking, and I went to his party, and Gene Ha gave him a beautiful gift, and it's this incredible either cover or splash page from Top 10.
Wow.
The Alan Moore stuff.
Wow.
Yes. And seriously, we're like, I'm sitting there with Tim and his girlfriend and I, and we're looking at it, and Tim's like, this would like be really expensive for Gene to sell. And he goes, and someone would buy it. And I'm like, yes. And he goes, this is a really expensive present.
Yeah,
I think so.
Gotten presents like that from artists.
That's terrific.
We're just, it's the best, I'm the one very publicly talking about how wonderful they are. And I'm not saying it in anything other than that's what I feel. You know what I mean? And the only way for them to gesture back is to give a piece of our baby to share. And I do look at them and it's because it's beyond just, that was a good experience. It's, that was, you know what I mean? That was like a next level experience, and that's the art that I have in my house.
I like where Jessica is. Back to her for a second in David and Sanford's Power Man and Iron Fist.
Yeah, and that's
and I kind of like how she's the voice of reason in that book.
And that's David, obviously a good friend of mine, and we teach together. I could tell he's always cautious with me about Jessica, and I'm always going, no, whatever, man, do it. Go there, but we have some pretty ballsy plans for her. I think going back to something that people may even have a I don't know what the word. Some people remember things much better than maybe they are.
Sure.
In my
kind of colored picture of what something is.
Like you'll appreciate this. I Cannonball Run 2 was on the HBO the other night, and I don't think I've seen a frame of that movie since the early 80s.
Okay.
And I stopped to watch it, and I think it was funny because all of this you'll appreciate. This is now I'm talking your language. The Jerry Lewis documentary was on the other night.
The Encore Jerry Lewis, and
it's very good, and it does make you feel good about that whole era, right? And then you switch the channel, and there's Dean Martin in Cannonball Run 2, and I go, oh, I know you're laughing at me, and then I watched it. This movie, Cannonball Run 2, entertained me so much when I was a young man, and it's such a horrible piece of shit.
Yes, it is.
On every conceivable level. You can't believe adults of talent came together and this is what they came up with.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. And I was completely in love with it when I was a young man.
Frank
Sinatra, Jackie Chan.
Yes.
Let's stop. Susan Anton. Anyway, so
Susan Anton, you're right, and a Menudo soundtrack, as I remember, right?
Menudo.
Yes, didn't Menudo sing the theme song from Cannonball 2? I'm reasonably certain.
Well, that is crazy if that's true. So
That
anyway,
up. Go on.
but I remember thinking it just the thought popped in my head about people thinking back on things fonder than they were and not to ever be that. You want them to read it and go, "Oh, that's better than I remembered it being," which has happened to me about other movies and other books where you read it again and go, "Oh, you know what? This is really good." Like Electra Assassin, I recently reread, and it's so much better than I even remembered, and I completely loved it. So
That's cool. Well, that's good to know. And
so only I could bring Cannonball Run 2 and Electra Assassin into the same anecdote. But listen, before I forget, I almost texted you this.
Tell me.
The documentary Becoming Mike Nichols on HBO.
Saw it, and it's amazing.
I'm so glad you saw it. It is literally everything you like in the world.
You're 100% right.
Yeah, it is. I read a review for it. I was excited to see it, and then when I saw it, it was far better than I thought it was going to be. And I'm not sure exactly what I thought it was going to be, but all that stuff with Nichols and Mays.
Yes.
All that, and I thought I knew a lot about them, but there was something about the way it was presented and the little anecdotes about her that I didn't know. That it just blew me away. And if anybody cares about anything about comedy or filmmaking,
Or plays,
I
for that
can't
matter.
recommend this documentary on HBO higher. It's wholeheartedly entertaining. I must have laughed out loud like 10 or 15 times. It's funny. He's a funny fucking guy. But it's this beautiful, and HBO's got a few of these where, but in this one, he clearly knew he was going to pass away soon, and wanted to sit down and get this all out there, right?
Agreed.
And but uniquely, it's a mixture of him quietly being interviewed by a good friend of his, and then just the two of them alone in the room, and then a similar interview being done in front of a giant audience of people.
Same two people, yes.
Yeah, and
intercut
that
back and forth.
Plus startlingly excellent archive footage of Nichols and Mays. Did you find that?
Yes.
Because I've seen a lot of their stuff. I never seen it so clean, so cleaned up. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just loved it. It inspired me to my core. You know, funny. Sam Humphries is actually here sleeping over, and
that's great.
He wasn't all in that world, and he was like, Jesus, man, this is great. And I'm like, yeah, this is getting under my skin, like visions of light under my skin, you know?
No, I understood, and I felt the same way. And the other thing too is they have great photography of the original Odd Couple on stage.
Yeah.
And don't you wish that someone had shot Carney and Mathau?
Dude, I Googled it to see if there was any like YouTube footage of it.
There you go.
But instead, I found 7 clips of Al Pacino's version of Glengarry Glen Ross that were filmed by the company to promote the Glengarry Glen Ross. 7 little scenes, like about 8 minutes in total.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I'll link you to that. That's
yeah, please do. No, I'd love to see
him and Bobby Cannavale and the guy from The West Wing. It's just a little taste of what it was like to see the show.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And also what I loved about the HBO Nichols thing too was it was so superior, surprisingly, to the PBS American Masters Mike Nichols special that came out 2 months earlier. I don't know if you saw that.
I did, though. That's the thing. I'd seen a lot about him, and I'd read that
Me too.
amazing profile on him in Vanity Fair last year. And I feel it's like one of those things like Scorsese. Like, I know more about Scorsese than I do about myself. Like, I know all the details, every anecdote. Like, even like, and I was going to bring up like, Mel Brooks did a similar spotlight show for HBO last year.
Yeah,
his one told all the anecdotes. I heard him tell those anecdotes on Bob Costas in the 80s.
Yes.
So I felt like I'd seen. It was nothing new, and I hadn't seen. But like, whereas the Woody Allen American Masters was filled with stuff I had not seen before.
Yes.
Right. And the Mike Nichols one. So once you see an American Masters, you feel you've seen it, and then this came about, and look at that.
Oh yeah, because honestly, I was a little disappointed in the American Masters PBS Mike Nichols thing, and the HBO thing, just made me really happy again. There's also, I don't know if it's on YouTube, I hope it is, but he did a Great Actors Studio with James Lipton.
Yeah. I saw it, and that's enough. Like I've seen all of this stuff, so I thought I'd seen it all.
Yes,
but
right,
stuff,
exactly.
Honestly, it made me so just completely stunned by Elaine May's genius.
Yes,
it's hard to even describe like what she was doing, how she was doing it, and as a woman, and how. I mean, I always loved her, but holy crap. For her to just go on stage, and then you find out, and this was the connection of Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, they didn't write any of this shit down.
Yeah,
There's no script at all.
It was all improvisational, yes.
And it's not like when you watch an improv show now, like even when you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, where every once in a while you can tell this is an improv fluff and they're there. And instead, it looks completely scripted. And there's not a moment where you think, oh, they're laughing at their own jokes because they can't believe what they're saying, right? Like even you watch like my kids love you won't even know what I'm talking about, but other people will. There's a bit that they do on Jimmy Fallon called Tight Pants. Have you seen this?
I have not seen Tight Pants. I've seen other bits.
Basically, Will Ferrell comes out wearing tight pants, dressed as like a mod from the '60s, singing about his tight pants, and then Jimmy Fallon comes out and he thinks he's got the tightest pants, and he sings his song, and then they bully Jimmy Fallon off the stage with clearly improv insult, right? And it's funny because no one makes Jimmy Fallon laugh harder than Will Ferrell just going off script, right? But you can tell they're off script. You can tell they're fucking with each other, and it's funny. You can tell any of that with Elaine May and Mike Nichols.
No, absolutely not.
I can't imagine being a fan of my work and your work and tuning into this thing to hear things about Civil War and being stuck in an endless conversation about Mike Nichols.
Yeah, but the guy is a genius, and it's and I felt
if I tuned in for Miles Morales stories and this is what I'm getting, anyway.
Well, the thing is, but the great thing is, honestly, that I love about the podcast is that we do direct people to these amazing things, and then I get the emails, and I hope you do too.
I absolutely do.
Okay, there you go. And honestly,
I wouldn't even bring it up, but I did. I was like, and Sam will tell you, when we were watching it, I said, "Holy shit, Suttress would love this. Holy shit." This is,
It's totally true. No, and it also energized me creatively. And obviously you're saying the same thing.
Yeah, it's hard to describe to people who don't do something creative for a living, but you'll find inspiration, truly blood-curdling inspiration from the oddest places. Right? And you rarely find them you do find them from your own industry. But it's the romanticized look at other people's industry that really gets you. But when you discover something about someone that you admired, and it makes you admire them even more, or you realize something about them, you admire them even more. And I did that recently with Spielberg, where someone was interviewing him about all his greatest hits, and almost every single time he'd point the responsibility of this thing that he's famous for, he said, no, that was Lawrence Kasdan. No, that was George Lucas.
Wow.
His
collaborator.
Complete confidence in self to genuinely just go, no, give credit where credit's due, with no sense of anything but legitimately, this is how I feel about the world. This person did this and they deserve all the credit. It's so inspiring to me, and it's because honestly, may I say, having the other downside of knowing a lot about the industry is that when you see people not doing it, it's a fucking bummer, right?
Yes.
Like, come on, give that artist the credit or give that writer that credit. And so I love pointing to it inspired me to say, oh no, that was Jeff Loeb's idea, or that was this person's idea. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, because even House of M, I wouldn't have come up with House of M without, I told the story to Jeff Loeb, and then he said, what does Magneto do? When I told him the Scarlet Witch story, and House of M came out of that. I was going there until he said it. So it's stuff like that. And it inspires me to behave likewise.
Well, we can bring it back to comics, and for the people who are wondering about Miles Morales and some Miles Morales stories, because now he's in a new environment.
Yes.
So 2 issues in and everything, and what
Two absolutely beautiful issues in. It's a very
absolute. Sarah's doing great.
It's
Yes.
a very interesting thing, and it's one of the reasons I'm excited to get back into it with Gatos, even though we just did a little mini Jessica story last year, or this year actually, for the show. We never stopped working together, me and Sarah, but Sarah left Miles, and then Miles aged up and changed as a character, and then she came back to it and then applied herself to the new Miles. It was very interesting. Like, I know this is like very inside baseball, but what an interesting experience for an artist. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these characters never change. Like, if like John Romita said, like he'd been on Spider-Man for a while. 10 years later, he's back on Spider-Man. It's still Spider-Man. It was some Peter Parker. It's the same age, right? Miles had aged up a couple years, and in teenage world, that is a lot of years.
Absolutely.
That's a different physicality. That's a different everything.
Yes,
and same thing
definitely.
Same thing with Genki and the other. They all look different, and so she had that in front of her. It was very interesting. I don't know. It just interested me. So so we're back in it, and he's we're playing that interesting balance between being this legacy Spider-Man and being this character that's making his own way. And we had interesting reaction to Miles's reaction to people reacting to his race in the book. I don't think you've read it yet, but in issue 2, his costume rips during a fight that he wins.
Right. No, go on.
People film it, and then people see for the first time that there's brown skin under the costume, and react. And the first reaction he sees is a very positive reaction, but it weirds him out. And I thought this was something I wanted to pursue, being that I have witnessed this in my own life with friends of mine, and but I knew it's as we talked about before, anything with politics, race, or sexuality, half the people are just gonna like fucking bash you on the head, and but I was surprised who was happy and who was bashing. It was very interesting, but I'm very happy we did it. Now, what I will say, and what most people got, I will say, and whatever kerfuffle we were building up to online, being the scandal of the day, Miles brought up his skin, was curtailed by the Ghostbuster trailer coming out. So those people just get mad about stuff and moved on to the Ghostbuster trailer. And you think I'm joking? It was hilarious. Like, it all happened when I was asleep. Like, I went, I work at night. So I went to sleep. I woke up, I checked my Twitter, and it was like, oh, fuck you, white boy. And then it was like, oh, wait, Ghostbusters, what? And then they were gone. And it was people who don't follow me, don't read the book. They just heard something. It's very interesting. It's hard to describe.
I can't imagine.
Just move on from, and it was weirdly, there was something with a Gamergate. There was something where anti-social justice warriors or something were wrapping themselves around what I had written in Miles as something pro them or something, and none of it was true, and most people saw that. But people just have social justice warrior and Gamergate on a search, and anything that gets brought up, they lunge at. And then added with the loveliness of someone taking one panel of your comic out of context and putting it online and saying, this is it. And it's not it. No, even if you look at the page, there was 4 pages. With this one page that's 1/4 of the point that was made, Okay. So this happened to me with a few other things too. It happened on Iceman, and I've seen it.
Yes.
I've seen it to other friends of mine. I had an artist friend of mine who was completely baffled why their work was photoshopped and put online, and said, look what they did. And he goes, no, that's not it, It was borderline what the Time Magazine did with OJ, which is another show I think you would love, the OJ show on
I keep hearing that. Yes.
yeah, and you're gonna laugh that I'm watching this and not watching Fargo, but I am shocked how good it is. It is.
That's what I keep hearing, and
it straddles this fascinating thing by being just a good a show and making a statement about how it was a soap opera, a reality show soap opera, and then like strangling that part of it, like really diving in, like finding out why it was like why did this happen, and it's interesting, and it gets
good combination of comedy and drama.
Sometimes, like the little Kardashian kids come home and go, "Daddy, you're famous. You're on TV. I want to be famous."
Yes, that's what friends have told me about those particular scenes.
It's very good.
That's interesting. No, and it makes me want to watch it because there's like when Moneyball came out, I finally saw the movie and I really enjoyed the baseball movie.
I love Moneyball. I love it.
But I was covering that on a national level at my sports radio network.
So it's like the last thing you want to hear about, right?
Well, yeah, or just like I know the story. I'm not going to learn anything from this. Why would I want to watch it? And then I watch it, and I'm like, oh, this is a fantastic movie. Yeah. And the same thing with OJ is good Christ, you couldn't not live that as it was.
Oh yeah, we all saw it. Like I'm like because of my perspective of the world, I'm mad that they don't ever mention the Howard Stern phony phone call that hit Peter Jennings the night of the Bronco. You know that one, right?
No, I don't know that one. I remember the Challenger one, but
the greatest phony phone call of all time. They literally somebody, and it isn't Captain Jenks who was famous for doing it. Calls up Peter Jennings and says, "We're across the street from OJ's house." They put him right on the air, and in the most Amos and Andy horrible black voice goes, "I'm across the street from OJ," and in a millisecond you can tell it's bullshit. And Peter Jennings has the voices in his ear, and he doesn't hang up with the guy. And then Al Michaels, the sports guy, remember Al Michaels?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I know Al Michaels very well.
Go, Peter, that wasn't real. That was a farcical call.
Wow.
Because he says at the end of it, he goes, "Baba Booey to you all." The guy got everything out. He went all the way through bullshit about OJ, fake racial voice, Baba Booey to you all. Al Michaels says to go on and say to Peter, "By the way, that wasn't real." And Peter goes, "Oh, yeah, okay, we have them on all coast. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you." Like, completely, like the guy fell for it wholeheartedly. One of the greatest moments in Stern history. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's outstanding.
In the middle of the chaos, they get one of these idiotic things in them. Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's unbelievable. And also, when you listen to it like years later, it's still hilarious because he's clearly not listening to a word this guy says. Like Peter Jenkins is not listening.
Yeah, well, I remember that's how Dan Rather was, unfortunately, during the Challenger thing, and about the call got through.
He's not listening.
Or it wasn't the Challenger, it was, oh God, shame on me.
I know what you're talking about. I actually think it is.
The other space shuttle incident, yes.
No, it wasn't the Challenger? I think it was the Challenger.
Maybe it was Challenger, but I thought, I can't remember.
Anyway, so you should check that out. But the point is, so we have Miles is now on top of finding his place in the world. He is finding his place in his biracial place in the world. He's kind of, and most people said, "Oh, I get it. This is how he feels today because he's young and naive." And then he's going to learn more and more and more. And it's always interesting when certain people are able to look at a character and go, "Oh, this is a very specific story about this character. This isn't my story. This is his story." And other people can't let go of their perspective of the world. It can only see, no, this is what happened to me, and that's the only way it should happen in books that I read. So,
yeah, no, I understand that too.
But I heard from, and this is the great part. This is our readership is so diverse now, more than it's ever been before. Mm-hmm. And to hear from so many African American readers on the day of release in such a positive way, so great.
Terrific.
That there's something want to buy, that it's for them, and it's there's an inclusion going on, and that's what the point is. Whatever this Gamergate shit is, I can't even follow it, and I'm sure you can't either.
No, yeah. Well, I don't understand how the existence of something new negates what everyone liked about the old stuff, and is like, well, now we can't have both, and it has to be one or the other, and it's like, I don't get that.
No, and I'm obviously anyone who and thankfully this all blew over before I woke up. This was the hilarious part about it. It was a little tempest in a teacup or whatever we call it.
Yeah, a teapot, sure.
Yeah, but it was literally over before I woke up, and
they had moved out of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it really seemed that way. It was pretty funny. But some people are, I'm outraged, and they go, no, you really should read his work. You're outraging. This is not the guy to outrage at. This you're wrong, and then they moved on.
Can I ask? I feel I have to,
sure.
And I'll be interested to hear what your thoughts are on the whole Iron Fist television.
Well,
casting
this is
kind of flat.
One of those things where people think I know something that I don't know.
No, go on.
I don't know.
Well, that's how I feel, and I feel like an asshole because I always feel like I am a liberal.
You know what? Here's what I've learned. You know what? We're a couple of white dudes, and it ain't our place to. It ain't our place to.
Okay.
We got plenty of things.
White shit to deal with. We got our Donald Trumps to deal with.
Yeah, we got this. I would almost go to say at some point our opinion doesn't count. But as a creator and a creative person, I will say let the creator and creative people do what they're doing and see what they do, and then bitch. Then
that was my Batman Superman argument, but yeah,
I've seen just as many people get up in arms about something, and then actually see it, and then there's really nothing to be up in arms about. What you're worried about, and I've been victim of this as well, where you're worried about something that it was never gonna happen. Your brain went to the worst case scenario. You wrote a bad thing in your head that you're yelling at me about, and you know.
No, I understand, and I do sympathize with people who want to see an Asian Iron Fist, but again, it's like I don't know. And also there are examples of Orientalism that I absolutely agree are really egregious and terrible. But I also think it's
what's going on with Muslim people in our culture and obviously in our politics, it's probably the thing that needs the most forward thinking that hasn't happened yet. Like there's a lot of forward thinking going LGBT. There's a lot of forward thinking going African American and in the sexual spectrum. Genuinely, I much more work needs to be done by all measures, but you can feel there's good in the air, right? But there are pockets of stuff that has not matched the level, and I think Muslim and Asian are the two that I would point at as the thing that I would be I think need the most work.
Sure.
And going to do my part where I can, where it's story appropriate. Absolutely.
I hear you. I still haven't seen all of the new X-Files, and there's that Muslim episode that everyone is really pointing at.
I haven't seen it either. I'm so allergic to Chris Carter as a human being from things that I know that it's hard for me to dive in. He's one of those guys. He's like he ruined my enjoyment of his stuff from the way he's treated some people in the real world.
Oh wow!
Just people I've met in the world who, have nothing nice to say about the dude. So,
how about Man in the High Castle? Amazon.
I haven't gotten to yet. I am.
Oh my!
Well, I will say, Joe Quesada said best show of the year, and
one of them, certainly one of them. Yeah,
he said this. When this is when creators come to you and say and point to something that's not good. It's great. I like done. I'm on it. And then
it's exceptional.
I go, well, I'm going to put that on the pay full when I have time to really pay full attention.
I understand.
You know what I mean? That's like,
And 6 months later, you still haven't seen it. No, I get it, man. Believe me, I get it.
Many people, Joe's someone who's very selective with his euphoric compliments of things. So when he says that is phenomenal, you go, well, that must be phenomenal.
It really is, and it's what made me think of it. Obviously, Frank Sponnett's coming from X-Files, obviously.
Yeah. Well, let's go rewind to Miles a little bit, because here's the thing:
sure.
Sometimes when I'm talking to you and you and I both get obsessed with the sociology of how things are critiqued.
Yes, absolutely.
And sometimes I can sound more dismissive than I am, and I'm not dismissive of a critique of how I handle a character's very personal journey. But, for some people who are very sincere in their critique and come at me and they've bought it and they've read it, and here's my critique, plus or minus, that is wholeheartedly, I take it very seriously. That is why all of my social media are open windows. Like, you can write to me anonymously. I'm as open to hearing what you have to say as I can be. Now, the downside of that is that there's a lot of shenanigans. There's just goofballs that are sometimes admittedly looking for a fight. Like this is you know this to be true too. They're bored.
So there are trolls online.
No,
there are people that
trolls. It's
picking a fight.
A, picking for a fight. B, they have an agenda, whether it be it's funny. Like, it was one of those days where you're both being called, and it happened with Iceman too, where you wake up and gay people are applauding, and then you're a homophobe. I'm being called gay or homophobe, and this one I'm either being I'm racist or I'm the most racially progressive. It's like, and then they read the same thing, and one person thinks it's the most racially progressive thing they've ever read. Another person thinks I'm a racist.
Right.
And this happened with Jessica and Luke Cage. Like, even having their relationship, they go, "You just want to fuck Luke Cage," and it's you think that about me, so I know that you know that. So it's, you put certain things out there, and there's no consensus opinion. And if someone feels negatively about it, they think everyone feels negatively about it. And I'm telling you, they don't. Like, I've had things that had a consensus, but on this stuff, there's none. And I'm just gonna tend to err on the side of those who got it. Like, if a bunch of readers it was intended for got it, we're good. You know what I mean? And then it's a weird thing on Tumblr too. Tumblr has a thing where someone will take your work out of context and then point at it and say, that is racist. Right. And then other people will read it. They don't know me. They don't know my work. They don't know the book, and they'll just go, "Wow, that's racist." But you're not. First of all, that's not it, and it's already been presented to you skewed with an agenda. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
No, absolutely. No, and I've seen you get it on both sides, positively and negatively, sure.
And at a certain point, I have to just throw my hands up in the air and go back to work. Some people think that I don't write in a vacuum. Like, other people vet this stuff. Like, it's vetted at the publisher. I vet it personally with my friends and colleagues. Like, if I'm going down a road that I know it's a weird road. You know what I mean? I know it's a weird road, but I mean, for a white writer to go down this road. So I show it to people, and I go, it's just honest and true. And if people I trust tell me yes, then I go for it. And if not, I don't.
Have you had people say, no, sorry, not consistent?
I'll have someone say, this word would be better. And I've never gone so, like, I'm not so ignorant, and I have a multiracial household. There's a race in my house, so it's not like
it's
completely baffled. But most things, like this thing that we're talking about with Miles, is something I heard someone say about themselves. I heard someone say, why does it matter that I'm a black? Why can't I just, I'm going to make up a thing, so I'm not. Some people don't try to guess what it is. Like, why does it matter that I'm a black actor? Why can't I just be an actor? Like, why is it qualified?
Right.
And it bothered them. And I thought about it, and then I thought of the characters that I write, that Miles might, how interesting that would be if after a couple of years of being Spider-Man, his costume finally rips on camera, and why, like, if his costume ripped and it was white skin, it wouldn't even be brought up.
Right.
Brown skin is being brought up. And then another friend of mine was commiserating about their state. Again, it could be they're being male or female, or being, but obviously if you're a female creator or your sexuality is as such, it's always brought up.
Yes.
Right? And it's not what I've achieved, it's who I am and then what I've achieved, right? And then hilariously, that's so I put this in context. I wake up in the morning, it's literally like noon, so it's 3 p.m. in the East Coast. So some people read their comics. The first reaction was like, "Oh, what's he doing?" Ooh, right? And I thought, "Oh, that's what I got. I got another week of this, and I don't think this is worth that, right?" And then literally the next hour was nothing but love, nothing but, "Oh my God, I have to tell you," I'm an Asian graphic designer, and it's always how I'm introduced, as an Asian graphic. They never say this is a graphic designer, and I always cringe every fucking time because they're like, why am I being qualified? I just want to be a graphic designer.
I hear you.
And I got a flood of those, and so that was mostly the takeaway of it, and I was quite moved by it. But it's always those first couple that you go, shit, is this the way it's going to go? And then it didn't go that way at all.
But then you get the third option too, where the people that that will use the female comic writer and stuff, that it's like, it is important that I'm a female comic book writer. So there's that third option. It's why can't I just be a great writer, and can't I just appreciate this? Can't the audience just appreciate the work for what it is?
Well,
and the role that you're doing, and then there's, like I said, or there's that, oh God, okay, fine, we have to celebrate the woman, or we have to celebrate the person of another color, and then, like I said, then you get these other people like, no, it is different because it's coming from me.
And again, there's this, and let's be frank, 95% of the people who read just want to read, and there's no agenda, and they're happy to read it. And it's only when they go, wait a second, that's some bullshit, that's insulting to me, do they respond. And by they,
usually it has to do with story.
And by they, I don't mean all people. I'm not talking about any race.
Right.
So I'm talking about the audience is who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The general audience. But again, it's you bring up certain subjects, you just kind of know there's an agenda, and with certain people on both sides, and it's going to get hit. And and the frustrating thing for them with me is that every single time, there are people who are looking for a statement about this. They're not going to get it from me because I'm not writing a statement. I'm writing a story about an individual, right? This is what happened to this character. Right? Yeah. Same thing with Iceman. That's what happened to this character. That's not what happened to all characters. It's not what happened to you. I'm not, sometimes they go, that's not what happened to me. Well, I'm not writing your autobiography. Right. And I'm always going to be writing a story about an individual, and the individual and their story comes before any kind of agenda that you're pushing and pulling at, So I just, and so it's frustrating if you have any kind of agenda to try to pinpoint my work on it, because I'm just not there for you. This is not where I'm coming from. So it's just complicated stuff. And but my overall thing was that most people got that, oh, this is where he's starting. It doesn't mean this is going to be that's all he thinks. If he's going to discover more things about himself and what he thinks about himself in relation to these things as the story progresses. But he's not a fully formed character. That's not fun to write, and it's no fun to read. He's got to start somewhere and then learn something, and then
now that he
to his superheroism.
Sure. Well, and does this tie in any way to that last panel of the crossover story that you did, Spider-Man or whatever it was called? I was want to say Irish Spider-Man who lives down the street.
Moses Spider-Man. He's the cancer at my temple.
Exactly. But no, when Peter Parker, 616 Peter Parker, goes back home and sees online what Miles Morales is represented in that 616, and he's like, "Oh no, are we going to see that soon, or is that still?"
Someone posted online. They do the next panel, and it's a picture of John Hickman. No, that's all going to be addressed, but it's just we got to get there from a different angle now because of all the wars. And I know some people are really this question. I will tell you, I get every day.
I'm sure you do.
Every day I get.
Well, because now they're living in the same universe, and really, the great scene in 2 when Peter steps up and
you did read it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, man. No, and I'm excited to see Abuelito, his grandmother, show up, and I liked the spin on the Face of Tiger speech.
That was the other side of it. Is the two things that people requested the most were that his race be brought into the story somehow. And again, there was no this is how you should do it. It was like, when will that?
Right. When will we see the Hispanic side of his life?
And then and the other side is, when will the other side of him, because he's African American in appearance, but there's a whole other side to him that's a big part of it. And that was one of the things about bringing his mother back, is that we can open that door so clearly. And here we go. Here we go with that grandmother. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
no,
we'll see what people think. That she is word for word a dead-on impression of someone in my life, as close to as how much I wrote Aunt May as my mother. This is someone I know inside and out. I can't wait to delve harder into her.
That's cool.
But she is going to be like his Doc Ock. She's going to be. It's going to be tough.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, that's great. That's very funny. No, and also coordinating with Wade on how he's using Miles in Avengers.
He's really great about that stuff. That's when someone's like an old school pro like that, like no problems at all.
Cool.
Like it's all good, and
that's cool.
He set it up perfectly, and it was one of those nice little moments, where and I always had this with Mark Miller too. The stuff I'm interested in writing is just not the stuff he's interested in writing. So we're never going, oh, I wanted that.
Terrific. That's great.
I generally wanted this part, and he generally wanted that part. The end. Done. Good. Bye. Go back to work.
That's great. I remember when he and Rucka did Spider-Man, Daredevil, and Punisher getting together a few years ago. And it was a crossover when they were both writing the various books. And it was really interesting hearing Mark talk about Greg's version of the Punisher and how he was approaching it and everything. And yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, those are two real writers, those two guys too. That's
I'm hip.
As you know, Greg's the real deal.
Oh no, definitely. No question. I'm bummed. He was supposed to come to Chicago for C2E2. He had to cancel, but Mark will be there, so I'll be able to talk to Mark.
Oh no, it's good news with Greg though, so it's good.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's good because he just said deadlines and stuff. So I'm glad that there's well, and I know some things are percolating, and we talked about that on the air. Mm-hmm. I know Lazarus is certainly in development and everything. What a great series! My God,
I love that series. Love it.
I am not surprised.
It's the perfect Greg vehicle, in my opinion. It's like him doing world building and crafting. It's just everything he does.
And it's crime at the same. I mean, that's the thing. It's fun watching your guys with United States of Crime, and also Greg and what he's doing with crime families and Lazarus and stuff like that. And that these two different kind of weird, sort of almost alternate world looks at organized crime.
So me and Greg have been friends for years and years, and we just had this unique experience where both of our daughters had a bat mitzvah this year. So we both.
Hey, that's great.
Yeah, we were at each other's bat mitzvahs, and we both had that like, oh my God, we're at the bat mitzvahs. And
Okay, and I can't believe that because I know Dash a little bit better than I know. I've only met Olivia the one time in Baltimore, and I've met and hung out with Dash, have had dinner with Dash a few times and stuff. She's great.
yeah, she killed
So
it.
that's crazy.
And
She's 13 already. Holy
I
shit!
know. And also, Greg, part of the class that we teach is we have the benefit of having all these amazing creators that live in Portland that come to guest lecture the class. So I'm able to express a lot of different viewpoints to the students so they can pick and choose which viewpoint most applies to them. We've talked about fast. The hardest thing about teaching a class is you don't want to go, here's how to write like me. You know what I mean? Here's the how to write like Bendis class. That's terrible. No one. That's not what you should be teaching, right? But here I can have Matt and Kelly Sue and Greg and all these other artists and editors and Diana Schutz and Scott Alley and all come in and just give them all this information that they can consume and take with them on their way. Greg is so good at this. They're all good. Greg, it's so funny because every single semester I go, I'm going to block out like an hour and a half for Greg to come in. It's like a 4-hour class. And then lo and behold, 3.5 hours later, why did I plan other stuff for today? He's
I'm not surprised. No, he's so passionate and absolutely and connects with a group. Go on.
Yeah, so I just have a lot of good feelings about Greg.
I found these 3 panels that you it's very funny because we're talking about all 3 of you right now, of you, Wade, and Rucka doing panels at Wizard Chicago back in 2006. And I keep meaning to ask all 3 of you. I would like to re-release them because it is 10 years ago.
Audio of it?
Yes.
Did I say anything that embarrasses me in today?
I don't think so, no. I really don't. And I'll even send them to you guys and let you listen to them. But the one in particular, and
I was really pro-Trump back then. I don't want I was really into those steaks.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say. They're surprisingly good. Mark is doing a writing class.
Mm-hmm.
Greg is just talking about writing women. And at the time, it was like the time of Infinite Crisis. So Wonder Woman killing Max Lord was a big subject and things like that. And the last one, and I've forgotten, really, I have to include Ed Brubaker and Paul Jenkins in this too, because Paul was technically running the panel, but it was a writer's panel it was Greg, you, Ed, and Paul all taking questions and stuff. And I talk enough to Paul that I can get his approval on it as well.
Yes, I remember doing a writing panel with Paul, and I told a joke that just bombed so badly that Paul turned to me and goes, "What do you mean?" And I remember thinking, like, as comedy fans as we are, but wow, it stays with me. No one else will ever remember it. I'm sure Paul has no recollection of this. It haunts me.
Well, I brought up because
if it's on there, you can air it. You hear it on there. I'm telling you, it might not even be in my head. It went on for an hour and a half. It's probably a second.
Well, I asked a question about thought bubbles not being used anymore. And you actually just either was right before or right after you started using them in New Avengers a little bit.
Yeah,
for like a second or whatever. And it became this, like, it got out of control.
Like what? Like in what way?
It just in terms of everybody kind of commenting on thought bubbles versus narrative caption boxes on, because at the time Steve Englehart was doing a new sequel Joker story to the Laughing Fish story, and it was him and Marshall Rogers. It was one of the last things Marshall Rogers did, and Englehart used thought bubbles. And some online critics are like, "Oh God, why are we beyond thought bubbles?" And I'm like, well, "Wait a minute, who gives a fuck?" And what's wrong with Batman having thoughts as opposed to a caption box and just thinking?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I remember that I was one of those people. I'm like, that is old. You know what it was? Is those thought balloons? I'm sure I'm repeating what's in the thing you're going to put out, but what was in those thought balloons a lot of times was just a vomitive exposition, and not the good kind. It was just, here's a bunch of shit the reader's got to know, or the writer wants to get out there. And it was written in a time where there weren't trades. There weren't, there wasn't a second life for this material. It was, you're either going to buy this book or you're not. So you're going to put everything in this book that you need to know, right? And there were no recap pages. And so it gave certain writers a liberty to get a little flabby with how they're telling their story. So when things got more sophisticated, that was something they pointed to and go, look at that pile of shit words on top of Wolverine or Batman's head. Right. Like Batman's punching the Joker and over the head, Batman's like, oh, my parents were killed and oh, Robin, and it's like, and it's technically bad writing. It might have been at the time necessary but I think that's why one of the things that everyone loved about Frank Miller so much on Daredevil is that he found a way to get all that information across in the context of the narrative without it feeling like vomit. Right. It felt like, and again, that Mickey Spillane kind of way to tell a story made it much more palpable. Again, I've studied this like the Torah. And so with us new little whippersnappers go, oh, fuck those thought balloons. Fuck those thought balloons. And then I would say that very loudly. Then I would go home and think about that, and then think about, well, wait. What are they really supposed to be doing? And that's what and then I put them in the Mighty Avengers, and then that was the wrong place to put them because 6 issues later, there's Skrulls amongst us, and now I can't do the bit because if there's people hiding something, you can't have somebody express their thoughts without that. So I blew it a little bit there. I will because I wanted the whole series to have that voice, but
that's why you abandoned it. That's interesting.
No, as soon as Spider-Woman showed up and she's a Skrull, right? Spoilers from 10 years ago. By the way, that's another thing. So people don't get mad about all the racial, sexual spectrum, politics, all that stuff that we talk about that I don't want to insult people with because I wholeheartedly think my heart's in the right place. No one cares. Like that's about 2% of the complaints compared to the 90% of like I spoiled something from 15 years ago. That's really. I get more shit about that than anything. I get shit. I post a page on Tumblr from like a Batman story from 25 years ago. And people go, "Thanks, man. I was just about to read that." It's just like, do people call up Comcast and go, man, I turned on my TV, it was the end of the Matrix, and I was fucked, now it's ruined. That's the same complaint.
I hear you, man. No, I say the same thing, people, about the podcast, and they're like, it's really long, and you shouldn't have talked about this. I'm like, yeah, do you call HBO and tell them about Vinyl?
You should ask them to take their money back. They get their money back. That's what they should do. You should give them their money back for this free service you offer them. God damn.
That's true. That's very true. No, I know, man. I know. But that's the thing. And Paul's finally like with the thought police, like, all right, I believe we've exhausted the subject. And I'm like,
even to the day I get all riled up about it. Because you get all pissy about it. And you think about, why am I being pissy about it? What do I know better than Steve Englehart? I don't know better than Steve Englehart.
That's the thing. And honestly, his use of it wasn't what you described. And I understand that argument about, certainly in the Silver Age, too.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'm flying off to Kandor to stop this insurgents. And it's like, there's our hero flying off to Kandor to stop this insurgents. You don't need that. His thing was,
the 70s, it was the most egregious.
Oh, sure. But this was in, like, the 2000s, the sequel to Laughing Fish. And it literally was just like him thinking to, like, Silver St. Cloud, who's trying to rescue, like, hang on, honey, I'm coming. And people are like, oh, God, we need that. And it's like, yeah, he's in love with her. And he's kind of worried, and he's just like reassuring himself that, whatever, while he's doing a very Batman like kind of like move through this building or whatever. And it's like, come on. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, and also there's certain writers that just thought there wasn't a lot of writing on like you need to see a lot of words on page so they feel like they earned their money. There's still people like that today.
Sure.
It's a funny mindset. And there's also like a teensy bit of arrogance to some. I see they're literally covering up art so they can be the voice, and it's really stupid.
No, I hear you, man. No, and you're the guy that pulls dialogue away and says the art did everything that I needed to. I don't need dialogue.
No, I mean Warren Ellis is the king of letting the artist tell the story. I mean, just there's so many people. I hardly can take any kind of credit for that, but it is a school I look at and go, what do I need to do here? You know what I mean? Especially when I get so lippy with the dialogue. You know what I mean? You gotta really kind of pick your moments. Even I think about that. Can you believe it?
I respect that.
Anyway.
No, absolutely. Well, we've done well in terms of our conversation today. Given that you still got announcements to come, I don't know what else that you would want to talk about.
Well, I'm looking at I can't believe we've been on the phone for this long again. I sincerely meant to do a shorter podcast with you. Who knew we were going to spend 45 minutes on Mike Nichols? But listen, I love you.
Oh, right back at you, son. You know that.
I'm glad to do this with you again. I would like to do another one sooner than later.
We always say that, and I'm in full agreement. It's our schedule
coming. I actually have something coming up in my life in April.
Oh, great.
The third thought in my head was, this would be good for a podcast with John.
Oh, thanks, man.
I will tell you what it is off the air.
I appreciate that, and honestly, I thank you for thinking along those lines in a WonderCon and stuff like that. Honestly, as I always say, it means a lot.
No, I mean that like as soon as I was done with Seth Meyers, I couldn't wait to talk to you.
That was fantastic, and I told somebody that story as well. I'm like, do you know producers of Seth Meyers actually listen to my nonsense? That's fantastic.
Yeah, I just did that, this stuff. But anyway, I hope we were clear about the race stuff with Miles. The point is, my heart's in the right place. It is based on stuff that I've seen in the world, and the story is not fully told. So for those concerned, you need not be. I'm not writing in a vacuum, and I have a story to tell that I think is of value.
Cool.
All right.
Excellent, man. No, and as always, I'm interested in what you're reading and watching and listening to, and my highest recommendation this time is being Mike Nichols. That is my highest, because I think it's one of those people have to find. But I'm sure it's on HBO Go or something. So. Yeah, it absolutely is. No, definitely it is. And man, Alex Gibney, who didn't do that Mike Nichols thing, but he did I think he did the Woody Allen thing for American Masters, and if not, he did that incredible Sinatra thing for HBO.
Yes,
and the Scientology thing for HBO.
Love that. That's another good one. I wasn't as in love with Sinatra as a lot of people were, because he was such an asshole.
He's a massive asshole.
It's hard for me to really get into it. Like even Jerry Lewis is an asshole, but. I don't know. It was less barbaric, I guess. The assholeness,
Sure. Well, yeah. No, I mean, no. He walked out on his wife and is schnooping everybody, and basically had promised to marry Lauren Bacall after Bogey died and screwed her over at the last minute. Crazy shit like that. Absolutely weird guy.
So yeah. But it is a very good documentary as well.
Amazing.
I did like that as well. I did like that one. But Mike Nichols looked like a genuinely decent dude who was trying to make good stuff his whole life, and that it was just fascinating to watch.
I quite agree. I'm looking at my Kindle to see if there's any books that I haven't mentioned that I've been reading.
I started reading Colin Quinn's book because I ran out of Tough Crowds.
That's really interesting.
And I have to read it in his voice.
Have you seen any of his one-man shows?
Yeah.
Other than what
not live, but the one.
I was going to say, I know HBO did the first one.
Yeah. But we did something fucked up with his makeup or his eyebrows. There's something weird going on. So why did you do that on your one man show?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
On the one that they showed on HBO.
The one that Seinfeld directed. There's some weird shit with pancake makeup and eyebrows. Listen, I'm hardly making fun of someone else's appearance. All right. This is why I can't wait to show up at WonderCon and people are. Because I haven't done shows in a long time, right? So when I show up to somewhere, it's like, oh my God, he's melting.
Well, David Engel and I were concerned about your eyebrows a while ago. So,
I told you why I cut them down. No one believes me.
Well, it's just...
My baby son was pulling them out of my head. I would hold him. He would grab them and yank them till they bled. So
No, you didn't tell me that. Actually, you didn't tell us that.
He didn't believe me. But when he was like 6 months old, I would be holding him all. You can't put the kid down, and I hold him, and he would just grab at my eyebrows, and there's no hair on my head,
right?
There's nothing else on my head. He would just grab my left eyebrow, pull it.
Loved it. That's awesome.
Sweetie, stop, pull it, and you can't fight back. It's a baby. You just
of course
stop. And then finally I go, you know what? If I ever just tweeze this down, he won't have anything to grab. And lo and behold, he stopped grabbing. There was nothing to grab.
Well, sure, because you look like Christoph Waltz in Zero Theorem.
I haven't gotten there yet, but
it's not good. Don't see it.
That's why. Yeah, exactly.
Please don't see it. It's horrible.
Thank you for reminding me. His book is great.
Terry Gilliam's or Christoph Waltz?
Like a whacked out biography, but it's not really a biography. An autobiography.
Gilliam did.
It's like what kind of biography you expect from him. His daughter kind of put it together, and it's even in the promotion of it. He goes, "Dad, can you do this? Because you're going to die soon. You should get this done."
So it's definitely Terry Gilliam.
Terry Gilliam made this book. It's great.
Go on. Oh, very interesting. I bought
it for like 4 people. It's yeah.
Because and I'm interested in this 2-man show that Cleese and Eric Idle are doing. That obviously came from them doing interviews about Cleese's book. Mm-hmm. But I'm very interested in that.
Yeah. And there's a documentary about them making their show that's coming out soon too. I can't wait. Those last shows they did in England.
Yeah, I thought that DVD was already out, and I guess it isn't.
No, it's not out yet, which means legal trouble. Anyway.
Well, and it was made, as I understand, to kind of clear up some legal debt.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I heard. And also, God, it was Harry Shearer who was on with, I want to say, Mark Maron, who I think took it a little further than maybe reality and said, the Pythons all hate each other. And it's like, I don't think they all hate each other. I think some of them are kind of tired of each other.
I think it's interesting because I think they fall in here. We're going off again.
Yeah, I
think they fall in and out of love with each other in a very interesting way. Because there was definitely years in the 80s where Cleese wanted to murder Eric Idle. Like, you really felt like
I didn't know that. I know Terry Jones and him had issues, but I didn't know Cleese and Eric Idle had a moment.
Cleese just had enough of him.
Interesting.
And they make up and whatever. And it's fun. They find each other in their older years. The pairs of them have shifted over the years. I'm very
agreed.
I'm very into how they talk about each other. And you watch Cleese's one-man show on HBO. Another thing I highly recommend. That's great, but I don't know if you've seen it. But
I haven't seen it. I didn't know it was on HBO.
It's stories that you've heard before a lot, but they're presented in a new way. He went out of his way to spice them up a little bit. And it shows clips and then talks about the clips and it goes all the way through to Fish Called Wanda and why the other one didn't work. It's
still love it though. Still really like Fierce Creatures.
I just think you want to.
No, I understand it's an imperfect movie, but there's enough in it that's I think Palin is really good in it. I really think Palin's excellent in Fierce Creatures.
There's just something off with the way it's filmed.
Oh yeah,
I don't think it's the performances or the writing. Because the writing is actually really good too. You can hear it, but it doesn't work. But there were pockets of time, and then he makes some joke about like Eric Idle made them a shitload of money with Spamalot, and now I think he likes it. He's saying like him for all the money he got from Spamalot for doing.
Probably, but I'm excited to see the Marty Feldman show.
The what?
The Marty Feldman show that Cleese and he did, and with I forget the third guy, but it's another great British comedian, Tim, whatever his name is, 3 names.
Can't remember, but I know
with a hyphen. But yeah, not the 1948 show, that thing, because I've seen a couple of those, and they're online. There's some YouTubes of those and things like that. But yeah, I'm always interested in what the Pythons are doing. And again, there's guys that, much like the Beatles, had their 3 or 4 years of doing that TV show and have done so many things apart that it is, I think, almost reluctantly when they do get back together again and stuff. But
well, I'm reminded that they're right now filming your new favorite movie, which is Steve Coogan and
Rob Brydon?
No, Steve Coogan and I'm blanking on Cal Naughton Jr. I know his character's name in Talladega Nights. What's the guy's name? Was in Talladega?
Oh, John C. Reilly.
I could come up with Cal Naughton Jr., but not John C. Reilly. That's really something.
Yes, it is. But go on.
It's going to haunt me for.
What movie are they doing together?
They're making the Laurel and Hardy movie right now, and
interesting.
Yeah,
wow.
I think you were. I thought of you when I saw that. I said,
well, honestly, Dick Van Dyke always talks about Stan Laurel and how what a genius and got to know him right before he died.
I was going to tweet at you. I can't wait for you to critique the timeline that the movie lays out based on your person.
I have, and I'll tell you off the air what I thought you were like going to have a bone to pick with me about it. I'm like, oh man, what did I do?
Okay, let's get off the air because then we have a lot of stuff to talk about.
All right, but yeah, thanks, and yeah, when the announcements come, obviously we will try sooner than later, and hopefully we'll have a late spring, early summer new Bendis.
Here's what's coming: Power Season 2 coming sooner than later. Whether you watch Season 1 or not, you're going to love it. Honestly, it's really just good television. And Civil War. Not what you're expecting, and I think that's great. So all that plus, by the way, and just so I rarely we do this as frequently. The sales on our books, Spider-Man and Iron Man, going back to press again this week. I just thank you. I just want to thank everybody for supporting these books. We focus on critique and criticism and quote unquote scandal or what have you, but the reality is that many of you have been promoting these books very loudly on Twitter and telling people you should buy these, and people are buying them, and thank you, and it means the world to us, and it's just like seeing Miles in the top 5 debuting like that. It's shocking, and I just wanted to say thank you.
That's excellent. No, and honestly, really have enjoyed both Spider-Man and Iron Man in particular, and I've got to catch up on Guardians with the Thing. I haven't been. I have to admit that
you just don't like Jews.
It's true.
That's your problem, buddy.
There you go. Right. Start tumbling away and start yelling at me on Twitter.
We will see you guys soon.
That's Brian Bendis. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. More great stuff coming up in the month of January for Word Balloon. We're only halfway through January. Don't worry. I've got the time, and believe me, I'm going to use it wisely and crank out some other great conversations with some of your favorites and some new timers, and looking forward to presenting you the full range of conversation you normally get here at Word Balloon. Today's episode was brought to you by In Stock Trades at InStockTrades.com, where let's talk about some more indie sort of stuff, although we're going to start with Hellblazer. Trade paperback volume 15, High Water, Brian Azzarello and Guy Davis together. Nothing wrong with that, man. I am telling you, a Simon Bisley cover, are you kidding me? 42% off for Hellblazer volume 15, a great story called High Water. $14.49. You can get Unfollow, Volume 2, God is Watching, Rob Williams' excellent Vertigo series with Michael Dowling. Tremendous idea, and this is the second trade paperback, 42% off, just $8.69. There's Black Panther, Book 2, Nation Under Our Feet, Ta-Nehisi Coates, Chris Sprouse, Brian Stelfreeze. That's your creative team. Chris is the artist on the interiors, and Brian Stelfreeze does the cover. But the story continues for Black Panther, and this is 42% off, $9.27. You can get Green Arrow, trade paperback volume 7, Homecoming. This is back during Mike Grell's incredible Green Arrow run from the 80s. I always enjoyed his take on Green Arrow. I think it really combined action adventure, superhero stuff, but there was always an interesting twist when Mike Grell was writing Green Arrow. Rich Hoberg, the wonderful artist from the 80s, is your artist on this fantastic book. 42% off, $11.59. All right, I kind of lied. I said I was going to get into indie stuff, and here I am talking about a lot of mainstream characters. But good books, great creators, great prices. InStockTrades.com. Check it out for yourself. They're also having a last chance sale of 50 to 90% of a lot of their clear-out trades. So all you have to do is click on the ad itself, and it will take you to the list of a ton of mostly out-of-print titles that they're clearing out for warehouse space, and take advantage of the great deals. InStockTrades.com. Thanks again for listening. More stuff coming up in October. Boy, my head's... That's what happens when you don't have a job. You lose track of time and stuff. Great stuff coming up for the rest of January, as I said earlier. Questions or comments about the show, reach me via email, john@wordballoon.com. Follow me on Facebook, @JohnWordBalloon. Also, follow me on Twitter, @JohnWordBalloon. And on Facebook, under my name, John Suntress, and, of course, the Word Balloon Network. The All Yeah podcast is still going strong, and we've got a new episode coming up in a day or so. So be looking for that if you're a fan of Art and Franco and our nonsense that we try to present at least every month. Until next time, Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions, copyright 2017.